Chapter 978. In addition to the Bahuang tribe, Yinsheng was also worried about later Qin, Dugu Xiao, Madame Qi Bai, and the others. They seem to be very quiet in the past few years, but would the blood of the descendants of the Bahuang tribe in them really stay quiet? When Jirumo invited the region of Great Zhou, he must have also invited the other three countries, the Dharma Temple, the Hunters Guild, and the elite camp of the mainland. It seems that I have to go to Penglai this time. Yinsheng already had an idea. The golden Qilin glanced at the letter with a complicated expression. The invitation letter asked the major countries to be at Penglai before the 15th of next month. Yinsheng decided to tell this news to Empress Dowager Wenren, and on the north side of the imperial palace, there was an open space paved with long stones. This was the drill ground of the imperial palace of Zhou State. Outside the drill ground, there were all kinds of stone beasts that weighed from 250 kilograms to more than 10,000 kilograms. Beside the drill ground, there were all kinds of weapons that shone coldly under the hot noon sun. The sunlight shone through the dense leaves and onto the ground, making the ground mottled. A few teenagers were squatting in a horse stance, and there was an incense stick beside them. These children were all about 10 years old, which was the most suitable age to learn fighting energy and magic. A person stood in the middle of the children, wearing only a warrior's robe. The local tycoon, Golden Qilin, had his hands behind his back and was supervising the group of teenagers like a teacher. His cold gaze fell on the boy on the easternmost side most often. The young man was slightly taller than the other children. He had a handsome appearance, and he exuded the majesty of a young emperor. His warrior's robe was soaked, and the incense stick beside him was thicker than the average child's by half. When the Golden Qilin saw the boy's hard work, a thoughtful look flashed across its eyes. Prince Regent, Lord Golden Qilin. When they saw Yinsheng and the Golden Qilin walking over, they greeted them. The teenagers greeted them loudly. Although they were greeting them, their bodies remained motionless. The young man on the east side didn't say anything when he saw Yinsheng. He only raised his head arrogantly. This person was the little emperor of Zhou State, Yi Beicheng. 3 years had passed, but he still had some prejudice against Yinsheng. In Yi Beicheng's opinion, no matter how much Yinsheng had done for Zhou State in the past 3 years, she was still a thief who had snatched his imperial brother Yi Baiming's throne as the prince regent through coercion and bribery. 3 years ago, Yinsheng forced Yi Beicheng to move to the palace furthest away from Empress Dowager Wenren. Then, she threw the 7-year-old Yi Beicheng into the Heavenly Hunting Corps for 2 years. Those 2 years were the most difficult years of Yi Beicheng's life. None of the men in the hunting corps knew Yi Beicheng's identity. They did not treat him as a 7-year-old child either. Yi Beicheng would train the hunters the same way. When they went on missions, Yi Beicheng also went on missions. It was there that Yi Beicheng tasted blood. It was also there that he earned his first gold coin with his young and trembling hands. It was also his first time fighting with someone to snatch a mission. It was also his first time drinking the blood of a demonic beast to survive. 2 years later, when the 9-year-old Yi Beicheng returned from the hunting corps, he had completely shed the image of a young prince who lived in a greenhouse. He was now at least 2 heads taller than before, like a little tiger. He was no longer picky about his food and did not even frown when faced with all kinds of training. He originally thought that his transformation was enough to make Yinsheng look at him in a different light. However, Yi Beicheng was wrong. When Yinsheng saw Yi Beicheng, she did not praise him at all. Instead, she found a new mentor for him. That was Yinsheng's personal bodyguard, Tycoon Jin. When Yi Beicheng first saw Tycoon Jin, he was a little disdainful. How could this monster, who did not have any sorcery or do qi, teach him combat skills or sorcery? Yinsheng did not explain much. She only let Tycoon Jin and Yi Beicheng compete. That competition ended with Yi Beicheng breaking 3 ribs. Yi Beicheng also obediently shut up and acknowledged Tycoon Jin as his mentor. In Tycoon Jin's eyes, he only recognized 2 people. One was Yinsheng, who refined him, and the other was Yi Baiming, who trained him. Other than these 2 people, he did not care about the little emperor of Zhou State or the warrior sage. That was why Yinsheng chose him as Yi Beiqing's mentor. Judging from the results of the training in the past year, Tycoon Jean and the Little Emperor were indeed a good match. Little Emperor, 3 years have passed. You're almost qualified to be the Emperor again, Yunsheng suddenly said after observing from the side for a while. As soon as Yunsheng finished speaking, a crack appeared on the cool face of the Little Emperor, Yi Beiming, which was somewhat similar to Yi Beiming's. Did he hear wrongly? That woman, did she just say that she wanted him to be the Emperor again? God knew that Yi Beiqing had been waiting for this sentence every moment for the past 3 years. The implication of this sentence was that he, Yi Beiqing, had finally obtained this woman's approval. However, if he became the Emperor again, did that mean that as the Prince Regent, Yunsheng was going to leave? For some reason, the Little Emperor, Yi Beiqing, did not feel the joy he had expected. Instead, he felt a sense of loss. You're indeed a fickle woman. It's only been 3 years, and you're already planning to abandon Zhou State, abandon Imperial Brother, and leave, the Little Emperor said coldly. TSK, you don't learn the good things and learn the bad things. You and Yi Beiming are really brothers. You've learned a lot from him. You can't bear for me to leave, so you told me the truth. You insisted on making me angry. I'll only be happy if I use magic to turn you into a pig's head. Yunsheng shrugged and exposed Yi Beiqing's words with one sentence. Yi Beiqing's little face flushed red when he saw that his thoughts had been seen through. He looked like a red-hot charcoal head. If that's not the case, why do you want to leave? You clearly said that you'll take care of Zhou State. Yi Beiqing had unknowingly regarded Yunsheng as an indispensable part of Zhou State. I said 3 years ago that I'm only taking care of Zhou State temporarily. 3 years have passed. You, this pile of mud, are finally presentable. You have Chengbai in literature, Bu Jiuxiao in martial arts, and a group of young talents. Little Emperor, you're no longer the flower in the greenhouse 3 years ago. It's time for you to graduate. Little Emperor, you've done well in the past 3 years. For the first time, Yunsheng looked at Yi Beiqing with a gaze of approval. Yi Beiqing was stunned. Yunsheng was actually praising him. This vicious woman who had been mocking and tormenting him was actually praising him. I'm going to Penglai. It's still unknown whether I can come back. Zhou State will have to rely on yourself in the future. Yunsheng waved her hand coolly, turned around, and left without looking back. Wait, Imperial sister-in-law, you must come back. The Little Emperor, Yi Beiqing, immediately understood what was going on when he heard that Yunsheng was going to Penglai. Come back. Yunsheng raised her lips and did not answer. Even she herself did not know if she could come back so smoothly this time. Thank you for your tickets and tips. Chapter 979. Yunsheng did not turn back. Behind her, the golden qilin turned its head and glanced at Yi Beiqing under the scorching sun. There was a trace of relief in its eyes. It flicked its tail and followed Yunsheng. When Empress Dowager Wenren learned that Yunsheng was going to Penglai alone, she was still a little worried. Empress Dowager, you don't have to worry. The Little Emperor can now take charge of things on his own. I have also left to Heo Jin to protect him. As for other matters, you can instruct Senior Brother Cheng and Senior Brother Bu. If there are any difficulties, you can also contact my second uncle. Only Yunsheng knew that she had to go on this trip to Penglai. A few years ago, when Yunsheng learned that her mother Hu Jiuxing's memory loss was related to Penglai, she secretly swore in her heart that one day she would personally go to Penglai and find a way to make her mother lose her memory. Back then, she did not go to Penglai personally because she was not strong enough. However, in the past few years, she had been recuperating, especially after peaking at Emperor Jiuyan's divine appearance. She had made great progress in her personal understanding. Even her magic and summoning techniques had improved greatly. In addition, she was accompanied by the Golden Qilin and a group of demonic beasts. She used the identity of Prince Regent as a cover to go to Penglai. When Empress Dowager Wenren saw that persuading Yunsheng was ineffective, she could only let her go. One day after Yunsheng left Yujing, a letter was sent to the Prince Regent's residence. However, because Yunsheng was not around, the letter was passed to Yun Songlong's hands. There was no signature on the letter. Yun Songlong was very happy, and his eyebrows twitched. She must go to Penglai. Yuan Xiahua, who was at the side, saw this and was very puzzled. Song Long, who wrote the letter, Shunger has already set off for Penglai yesterday afternoon. It's a letter from my eldest brother. He wrote in the letter that Yin Sheng must arrive at Penglai before the 15th of this month. Although there was no signature, Yun Songhai still recognized this letter. It was written by his eldest brother, Yun Songhai. There has been no news about Yun Songhai in the past few years. Unexpectedly, he has been lurking in Penglai. This time, he did not hesitate to expose his whereabouts and wrote a letter to Lin Luoran. He also insisted that Yun Sheng go to Penglai. Something must have happened. Could it be that Big Brother had discovered something in Penglai? Yun Songlong was a little anxious. Yun Sheng had already left. He had to think of a way to send the news to Yun Sheng. In the Penglai Zhao state, in a dark water dungeon, a woman was soaked in the water dungeon. Her eyes were closed, her skin was pale, and there was no color on her face. But her face was unbelievably beautiful. She still refuses to say anything. The Emperor Zhao in red walked into the water dungeon. Behind him, several main summoners followed. The 9th main summoner was among them. Reporting to the Pope, this woman's mouth is very tight. No matter what, she refuses to say the way to go to the Ba Huang continent. The summoner in charge of the interrogation said. The Emperor Zhao in red walked forward and pinched the woman's chin. Yin Sheng, you still refuse to say anything? Since that's the case, the 15th of this month will be your sacrifice. As he spoke, the Emperor Zhao in red glanced at Hu Jiuxing from the corner of his eyes. But there was no change in her expression. The Emperor Zhao in red's expression eased a little. He asked a few more questions, but the woman still did not say a word. She was like a mute. The Emperor Zhao in red saw that he could not get anything out of her, so he left with the others. After everyone left, Hu Jiuxing looked down at the girl who had long lost her color. She said coldly, "Why don't you explain?" This sentence Hu Jiuxing wanted to ask 3 years ago. Everyone, including the Emperor Zhao in red, thought that the person they had captured was Yun Sheng of the Zhou state. Yun Sheng, who was half celestial fox. But Hu Jiuxing knew that she was not Yun Sheng. She was just a celestial fox people who looked like Yun Sheng. This woman was timid and did not know magic, but she was a tough nut to crack. In the past 3 years, the Emperor Zhao in red had used different methods to get his subordinates to force the woman to tell them where the entrance to the Ba Huang continent was. The Emperor Zhao in red was an ambitious man. He was different from the other forces in the boundless land who only wanted to expel the descendants of the Ba Huang continent. The Emperor Zhao in red thought that in order to destroy the Bakar orcs, he had to uproot them once again. He even had the delusion of attacking the Ba Huang continent before the Ba Huang continent invaded again. But this woman who looked as delicate as porcelain endured the torture time and time again, refusing to say a word. Maybe it was because the woman's behavior of protecting Yun Sheng surprised Hu Jiuxing. Or maybe it was because Hu Jiuxing admired the woman's stubbornness. Hu Jiuxing did not dislike this woman. If it was not for the fact that the woman had to die, Hu Jiuxing might have saved her. One of us has to die. It's better for me to die than for her to die. Hu Sheng coughed a few times. She could feel a dull pain in her heart. That's right. No one would care whether she, Hu Sheng, died or not. Father would not care. He would not care if he abandoned her. But if Yin Sheng died, many people would be sad. Her friends, her lover, and her parents. Yin Sheng had everything that Hu Sheng could not have. She was like the sun. She was smart, knew powerful magic, and had miraculous medical skills that could bring the dead back to life. Compared to Yin Sheng, she was like a small black dot in the sun. Her existence was like a foil to Yin Sheng's beauty. But even so, she still liked Yin Sheng. She could replace Yin Sheng and be killed. That was also a kind of happiness. What else do you want? Hu Jiuxing asked. I want to go back to my hometown, but I don't think I can go back. So, can you, after I die, send my ashes to Zhou State and give them to a man named Abandoned? Hu Sheng said with a smile. Her smile was sad and beautiful. Even if Abandoned did not like her, she still liked him very much. Abandoned was the first man who was so nice to her. Hu Jiuxing promised Hu Sheng. She did not know how she felt when she left the water prison. When she walked out of the cell, a cold voice entered Hu Jiuxing's ears. Why didn't you save her? She didn't deserve to die. Yun Sanghai, who was dressed as a summoner of Zhou State, stood not far away. You didn't save her. I'm not the only selfish one. Hu Jiuxing only cared about one thing. As long as Yun Sheng didn't die, she didn't care who died. Hu Jiuxing didn't say anything and left indifferently. Yun Sanghai sighed and looked at the water prison. Yes, Hu Jiuxing was right. He was also selfish, but he still couldn't help watching an innocent woman be killed instead of Yun Sheng. He had written a letter to inform Yun Sheng and asked her to come to Penglai as soon as possible. Presumably, at this time, she should be on her way to Penglai. If she could make it in time, maybe the woman in the water prison could be saved. Chapter 980. At this time, Yun Sheng was ready to set off for Penglai. She first went to inspect the medical centers. After confirming that there were no mistakes, she obtained first-hand information about Penglai. Although it was called information, the information was pitifully little. That's strange. There's no information at all. Penglai is like a blind spot in the mainland. In the inn, Yun Sheng was frowning as she flipped through the information in her hands. Before Yun Sheng left Yujing, she had entrusted Long Hua and Long Feng to gather this information. Yi Baiming's Dark North Guards were not only an outstanding elite troop, but they were also an intelligence team. There were many Dark North Guards who had been hiding in various countries and major powers all year round. That was why Yi Baiming had been able to get a map of Later Qin's palace so easily in the early years. Before going to Penglai, Yun Sheng had specially gathered all kinds of information about Penglai. However, after checking, Yun Sheng realized that there was very little information about Penglai, other than the fact that Penglai was an island country surrounded by bad seas, that the prince regent of Penglai was Jirumo, and that the biggest sect in Penglai was the Zhou state. There was no other information. In terms of danger to Yun Sheng, Penglai was even more dangerous than Later Qin. In Later Qin, at least there was Dugu Xiao. However, Penglai was under the control of the Zhou state. In the past few years, Yi Baiming's Dark North Guards had done a thorough investigation of the major countries and major powers on the mainland. Yun Sheng could even find out about the situation of the Dharma Temple. However, Penglai was the only place that was forbidden. Penglai, which was known as the Summoning Nation, was the most mysterious existence on the mainland. The Emperor Zhao in Red of Penglai was one of the few Emperor Zhao in the world. It was said that the Emperor Zhao in Red's magical beast was a terrifying existence. The Emperor Zhao in Red's mythical beast was a real mythical beast. It was not like the green dragon totem that Yun Sheng had encountered when she fought with the city governor of Grand Emperor City. Although the 4 divine beasts were also divine beasts, they had been banished to the mortal world and existed in the boundless land as divine beasts. Totem divine beasts, in terms of strength, were much weaker than real divine beasts. Therefore, in terms of true strength, the Emperor Zhao in Red of Zhao State was far more powerful than the city lord of Grand Emperor City. Moreover, Yun Sheng did not forget that Penglai had a prince regent, Jirumo, who was on par with the Emperor Zhao in Red. Although Jirumo kept a low profile, he was able to keep pace with the tyrannical the Emperor Zhao in Red in Penglai when he was young. This person was definitely not simple. In addition, Long Hua's information also mentioned that if Yun Sheng wanted to go to Penglai, she had to take a ship. This was because Penglai was an island country surrounded by the sea. There were also some demonic beasts around the Penglai Sea, so she had to be careful. It was best to take a large, empty ship or be escorted by a powerful hunting group. It seemed that this trip to Penglai was already full of difficulties before it even started. Yun Sheng put down the information in her hand with a serious expression. The golden Qilin beside her also noticed it. In fact, when he saw the invitation letter, Yi Baiming wanted to stop Yun Sheng very much. He even thought of destroying the letter directly. However, Yi Baiming knew that he could stop her for a while, but not forever. The relationship and hatred between Penglai and Yun Sheng had been doomed as early as Yun Sheng was born. Yun Sheng would go to Penglai one day. The Yun Sheng that Yi Baiming knew was someone who would repay kindness and avenge hatred. Many years ago, the Penglai Zhao state harmed Yun Sheng's family and made them homeless. The Penglai Zhao state was related to the safety of Yun Sheng's parents. In the past 3 years, because of the burden of the Zhou state, Yun Sheng had not investigated the memory loss of her mother, Hu Jiuxing. But now the little emperor had gradually matured. Empress Dowager Wenren had the support of Cheng, Bu, and the Baiming guards. The time was ripe for Yun Sheng to go to Penglai. Therefore, after weighing the pros and cons, Yi Baiming decided to accompany Yun Sheng. Even if his woman had to go through a mountain of swords and a sea of fire, he would accompany her without frowning. At this time, Yi Baiming found that being a magical beast was still very beneficial. At least, he could put down all his responsibilities and accompany Yun Sheng anywhere. A few days after Yun Sheng's departure, several other countries and forces on the mainland also received the invitation letter from Penglai Jirumo. In the later Qin Imperial Palace, Dugu Xiu stared at the letter from Penglai Prince Regent Jirumo, lost in thought. His expression was uncertain. No one knew what he was thinking. Do you plan to go in person? Madame Chi Bai walked in. Jirumo specifically invited me to go. The other countries should also send important people. The immortal residents, Holy Wind King, and the regent of Great Zhou will all go. When Dugu Xiu said the words Zhou State, there was a trace of disappointment in his eyes. Since they all went, she would also go. 3 years ago, when he learned that the regent of Great Zhou had reappeared in the eyes of the world, Dugu Xiu had already guessed that the he who was praised by the whole Zhou state was her. Yi Baiming was affected by the ancient Qilin's curse and turned into a beast. As long as he couldn't break the curse, he couldn't appear in front of people. Dugu Xiu still clearly remembered Yun Sheng's expression when she learned about the ancient Qilin's curse. Yun Sheng, that stubborn woman, had completely recovered from the pain. She replaced Yi Baiming as the Prince Regent for 3 years. This woman, once again, made him look at her in a new light. In these 3 years, Zhou's state went from weak to strong. The changes were witnessed by everyone. You want to see that woman, right? Madame Chi Bai said sourly. Madame Chi Bai was one of the few people who knew Yun Sheng's true identity. However, because of Dugu Xiu's warning, she didn't dare to expose Yun Sheng's identity. Although Dugu Xiu let Yun Sheng go 3 years ago, he seemed to be busy with government affairs and didn't do anything unusual. Like before, he recruited many beautiful women into the palace every year. However, Madame Chi Bai knew that no woman had entered Dugu Xiu's heart. He only cared about Yun Sheng. What you couldn't get was always the best. The later Qin Emperor Dugu, who was pursued by thousands of girls, fell in love with a woman who had already been married. After Dugu Xiu ascended the throne, he moved into the Imperial View Palace, and the original Crown Prince's mansion was empty. However, on a certain day every month, he would go to the Crown Prince's mansion. When he went to the Crown Prince's mansion, he would only stay in one place all night, which was the stepping snow garden where Yun Sheng had lived for a few months. That place was as intact as before, and it was exactly the same as when Yun Sheng had lived there. Even if Dugu Xiu couldn't marry Yun Sheng because of the ancient Qilin's curse, he had already lost his heart. In these 3 years, he had never touched Zhou State because that woman was in Zhou State. Chapter 981. Seeing Dugu Xiu's soulless appearance, Madame Chi Bai looked on coldly. Her heart felt as if it was being cut by a sharp weapon. Dugu Xiu, you are a complete idiot. Chi Bai, do your job well. It's not your turn to worry about my affairs, Dugu Xiu said coldly. I'm just reminding you out of kindness. Patriarch He Yao has been working hard for many years. The Bahuang tribe has been waiting for so many years. This moment is finally here. Don't ruin the plan, Madame Chi Bai said angrily. I know. Prepare the ship. It's time to set off for Penglai. Jirumo is not a simple person. Dugu Xiu took Chi Bai and a group of attendants and set off for Penglai. A few days later, on a large white empty ship that could accommodate thousands of people, Yun Sheng was standing on the deck, admiring the beautiful scenery of the sea and sky. After coming to the Boundless Land, this was the first time Yun Sheng saw such a vast sea. Although she knew that the future of this trip to Penglai was unpredictable, Yunsheng was still in a good mood. Although she had been the Prince Regent for 3 years, Yunsheng was still a modern female doctor. She did not like to be surrounded by people and did not like others to call her the Prince Regent. So she simply followed Long Hua's advice and chose a civilian empty ship to go to Penglai. Anyway, there was still more than half a month before the agreed time in the letter from the Prince Regent of Penglai. Yunsheng heard from the Everlasting Chamber of Commerce that in the large port near the sea, she could find a fully equipped empty ship to go to Penglai. The empty ship that Yunsheng boarded was called Long Xiang. It was a transport ship of a local large chamber of commerce. It used large-scale wind magic and was driven by magic. The appearance of the empty ship was very similar to a modern cruise ship. When it was moving, it was quiet and there was no sound. Its flying speed was faster than ordinary flying magical beasts. Because Penglai was an island country, everyone who entered Penglai had to take an empty ship or a sea ship. Compared to the bumpy and slow sailing of a ship, which would also encounter waves, an empty ship was much more comfortable. Therefore, some wealthy civilians and businessmen who did business near Penglai all year round would choose to take empty ships. Flying Dragon was divided into 3 floors. According to her identity and the price of the ticket, Yunsheng bought a seat on the 3rd floor. The price of a ticket was 100 gold coins, and magic beasts had to buy 2 tickets to enter. The crew members on the ship were not surprised that Yunsheng brought a magical beast on board. After boarding the empty ship, Yunsheng saw many people with magical beasts. Some of them were not summoners. Yunsheng asked around and found out the whole story. Penglai was a summoning country. The number of magical beasts in the country was also several times that of other countries. The country not only used magical beasts for combat, but also domesticated magical beasts for food and various kinds of farm work. Generally speaking, people who were not summoners could not control magical beasts, but that was only limited to the other countries outside Penglai. In Penglai, if ordinary people who were not summoners wanted to control magical beasts, they must first go to the local summoning office to register. After obtaining a magical beast certificate, they could buy magical beast eggs or magical beast cubs from the magical beast merchants. Speaking of magical beast merchants, they were also a kind of merchants unique to Penglai. Magical beast merchants sold and bought all kinds of magical beast eggs and magical beast cubs. However, the magical beast eggs and magical beast cubs sold by magical beast merchants were different. They had been baptized by the Zhao state and had been rid of the wild nature of magical beasts. Ordinary people could directly incubate or bring the magical beast cubs with them after buying them. However, this kind of magical beast eggs and magical beast cubs were only limited to low-level magical beasts. High-level magical beasts could not be baptized. In addition to being able to bring magical beasts on board, people dressed as hunters could be seen patrolling the empty ship from time to time. On the Long Xiang, hunters were also hired to guard against any unexpected situations that might occur along the way. The speed of the civilian empty ship was not as fast as the 3rd Elder's empty ship that Yunsheng had taken before, but it was very comfortable. Because it was a civilian ship, there were all kinds of people on the empty ship. It was also convenient for Yunsheng to inquire about all kinds of information. When Yunsheng went to Penglai, she considered that she would meet some acquaintances, so on the basis of her original appearance, she used the method of disguising herself as a magical beast and makeup to change her appearance a little. Her skin had become wheat-colored, which was commonly seen by the sea, and her eyes had been changed to slightly slender phoenix eyes. She was dressed in black, and her whole person looked both low-key and hidden. However, Yunsheng did not expect that although she had disguised her appearance, she would be targeted as soon as she boarded the ship. Baby Sheep went for a stroll again. Golden Qilin lay lazily beside Yunsheng. From a moment Yunsheng stood on the deck, a pair of eyes had been staring at Yunsheng. Yunsheng noticed that the other party was not hostile, so she ignored it. At a height of up to 1,000 meters, she looked down at the sparkling ocean of different colors under the sun. Finally, the owner of the gaze behind her couldn't help it. This one is Chong Wei, a magical beast merchant in Penglai. When you boarded the ship earlier, I had already noticed you. I don't know if we can be friends. Chong Wei was the largest free magical beast merchant in Penglai. His purpose of hitting on Yun Sheng was very simple. His goal was the golden qilin beside Yun Sheng. Chong Wei walked around the continent all year round, looking for all kinds of rare magical beast eggs and magical beast cubs. He could see that Yun Sheng was not a summoner. He had seen countless beasts, but he had never seen a golden magical beast. Moreover, this magical beast had a strong physique, and there was no trace of impurities on its golden scales. It looked like a superior golden eagle. Friends were everywhere. Yin Sheng nodded at Chong Wei as a greeting, but it was not very intimate. Chong Wei saw that Yun Sheng was neither cold nor warm, and he was a little anxious in his heart. He could see that although Yun Sheng's clothes were ordinary, she could afford a ticket to the third floor, and her temperament was not bad. She must be a young master of a big family who went out to experience. It would be good for his future business to have a relationship with such a person. Oh, what a handsome magic pet. This young master, your magical beast, is really good. Chong Wei walked to Yun Sheng's side. Just as he was about to approach, the golden qilin got up. Chong Wei didn't expect this magical beast to be so tall, and it blocked his way with a vigilant face. Chong Wei felt an invisible pressure, which made his legs tremble. His originally envious face suddenly stiffened. Gold coins, Yun Sheng called softly, and the golden qilin laid down obediently. Seeing that this magical beast could understand human language, Chong Wei was even more surprised. This young master, what kind of magical beast is your magical beast? Chapter 982. When Yun Sheng saw that Chong Wei was dressed as a merchant and his eyes lit up when he saw the golden qilin, it was not difficult to guess that he was indeed a magical beast merchant. It was Yun Sheng's first time coming into contact with a magical beast merchant, and she could not help but be a little curious. This is a qilin. As for its grade, I am not sure. Yun Sheng still wanted to find out more information from Chong Wei, so she started to chat with him casually. Qilin. Qilin? Are you talking about the extinct qilin on the mainland? Chong Wei swallowed his saliva hard. He had guessed that this magical beast had a great origin, but he did not expect it to be a qilin. A qilin, and a golden one at that, was not an ordinary magical beast. In the era when Bakra orcs were still rampant on the mainland, there were many more types of magical beasts on the mainland than there were now. After the Bakra orcs were expelled, a large number of magical beasts either went extinct or were exterminated. The magical beasts on the mainland were also becoming fewer and fewer. However, in some remote mountains or some deep sea or areas that humans had not set foot on, there were still some magical beast bloodlines left behind from ancient times. Among all the magical beasts, the most powerful magical beast was recognized as the dragon race. However, the so-called dragon race did not only refer to the nine-clawed golden dragon. Even dragons were composed of many branches. The qilin was one of the most ancient of them. It was rumored that the qilin was a type of dragon magical beast, but the qilin had long gone extinct on the mainland. Who would have thought that the magical beast of this extraordinary family descendant was actually a qilin? Chong Wei stared at the golden qilin with eyes full of envy and amazement. It was indeed a qilin. Its scales were more dazzling than gold, and those lines smoother than the strongest warhorse, and those four limbs. If not for the golden qilin's fierce gaze that said, "If you dare to touch it, I will eat you immediately," Chong Wei really wanted to go up and touch the golden qilin. When Chong Wei saw the expression on the golden qilin's face, Yin Sheng could not help but laugh. At this moment, Chong Wei was like a hungry pervert who saw a peerless naked beauty. However, the expression on the golden coin's face was very strange. It obviously hated Chong Wei. If not for Yun Sheng's warning look, it would have turned around proudly and walked away. Seeing Yun Sheng and the golden qilin staring at each other, the golden qilin was angry but did not dare to roar. Chong could tell that this qilin was very human and that it was very wary of its master. It seemed that as long as he could convince this young master of an aristocratic family, his wishful thinking would still be successful. In order not to anger the golden Qilin, Chang Wei walked to Yunxing's side and said softly, "Mister, I want to discuss something with you." Qilin, the Qilin. How about 10,000 purple coins in 3 days? If not, 1 day. Lend it to him. Yunxing did not think that Chang Wei could order the golden coin around. In fact, other than her, no one could get within 10 steps of the golden coin. Yunxing thought she had misheard. "Uncle Chang, what do you want to borrow the golden coin for?" Yunxing was suspicious. "Breeding, of course. Your magic beast looks so strong. It definitely won't be a problem for it to breed with 10 mother beasts in a day. The magic beast cubs it gives birth to will definitely be a good breed." Chang Wei's saliva flew everywhere as he spoke. Yunxing was speechless. Breeding? 10 female beasts a day? This uncle was actually doing this kind of shady business. Ignoring Yunxing's expression, Chang Wei was still talking enthusiastically. "Little brother, where did you get this magic beast? There hasn't been a Qilin on the continent for many years. When a Qilin is born, it is a holy beast. If I'm not wrong, this must be a holy male Qilin. This kind of Qilin has good physical strength and amazing reproductive ability. I have several high-level magic beasts on hand, such as the Wind Lion and the Glacier Chalk Tiger. If the Golden Qilin can successfully mate with them, it will definitely give birth to high-level or even saint-level magic beasts in the future." Chang Wei was ecstatic when he thought that he would soon have a large number of high-quality hybrid magic beasts. From Chang Wei's words, Yunxing heard something unusual. Although Chang Wei was a magic beast merchant, he was different from ordinary magic beast merchants. He was a magic beast merchant for the Penglai royal family. His magic beast eggs and some magic beast cubs were qualified to be directly provided to the royal family. Yunxing knew that in Penglai, there was a tradition of crossbreeding strong male and female magic beasts to create new hybrid magic beasts since ancient times. Moreover, in Penglai, many nobles and some powerful families liked to exchange magic beasts with each other, especially high-level or even saint-level magic beasts. The purpose of breeding magic beasts was to breed more powerful magic beasts. Although the survival rate of crossbred magic beasts was very low, once the breeding was successful, the grade would be greatly improved. Yunxing was dumbfounded. It seemed that this magical beast merchant had taken a fancy to Gold Coin's strong body and wanted to use it for mating. 10,000 purple gold coins a day, this price was indeed not low. In fact, in Penglai, there were some summoners who relied on lending their magic beasts in exchange for high rewards. When Yunxing heard this, the corner of her mouth twitched even more. Wasn't this almost the same as a stud horse? For some reason, when she thought of lending gold coin to do this kind of thing, Yunxing had a feeling of fear in her heart. Fortunately, today's Yunxing was no longer the poor orphan who had just left the banana leaf village. 10,000 purple gold coins. For Yunxing, who owned the first medical center on the mainland and the annual income of the Sky Attack hunting group, it was nothing in her eyes. "I'm afraid this is not a good idea. My magic beast has a bad temper. I'm afraid it won't be willing to mate with an ordinary mother beast." Yunxing thought about it and decided to refuse Chang Wei. She smiled and secretly glanced at Gold Coin. This guy was squinting his golden eyes and staring at her. "Hey, child, having a bad temper is a big problem. Magic beasts at this age are in the estrus period. If you don't find a mother beast for it to mate, it will be very angry." Chang Wei had a look of, "I know it very well." Chang Wei saw it clearly just now. The Golden Qilin had a bad temper. As soon as someone approached and wanted to talk to the black-clothed child, it would glare with its golden eyes and growl to let those people retreat. When a magic beast was not facing an enemy, it would be so irritable. It must have some needs that were not satisfied in some aspect. Chang Wei boasted that he had been a magic beast businessman for decades and was very familiar with the temperament of magic beasts, especially high-level magic beasts. When they entered the estrus period, they would be very violent and easily hurt others. That reaction was exactly the same as gold coins. When Yunxing heard Chang Wei say this, she thought about how Dollar had been getting more and more bed-climbing behavior lately. She started to have doubts in her heart. Could it be that Gold Coin was really in the estrus period and couldn't find a suitable mother beast, so he borrowed her feelings? She basically wrote after work and at night, so it was difficult for her to publish several chapters at once. Everyone could concentrate on the night and read the day's updates all at once. Chapter 983. Yinsheng shuddered. Although half of her blood was celestial fox, but not only that, but Yinsheng had been with Dollar for the past few years. She had noticed that Dollar didn't like men, especially the ones that got close to her. But women were different. It didn't dislike women getting close to it. Yinsheng used to think that Dollar was a lecherous Kylan who liked women. It didn't dislike other maids or women, but it didn't like their touch either. Last time, a maid just wanted to stroke its head and was roared by it. She was so scared that she couldn't sleep well for a few days. However, it didn't dislike Yinsheng's intimacy. On the contrary, it enjoyed it very much. Every time Dollar got angry, Yinsheng would scratch its chin a few times, and its anger would disappear. The more Yinsheng thought about it, the more she felt something was wrong. She felt that Chang Wei was right. Although she and Dollar didn't have a contractual relationship, she was still its temporary master. She had to ensure its physical and mental health. Should she find a mother beast for Dollar to breed? It was bad for men to hold it for a long time. If a male beast held it for a long time, it would also affect its body. Thinking about it, Yinsheng walked to Dollar. She first scratched Dollar's neck. Dollar squatted down comfortably with a lazy look. Dollar, you don't seem to be young anymore. Do you want to find a partner for you? Well, it's like finding a mother beast for you to give birth to a little Dollar. Yinsheng thought she used the best tone. After hearing it, Dollar didn't respond for a long time. Seeing this, Chang Wei suddenly felt hopeful. He thought that Dollar agreed to breed. He hurriedly squeezed through the crowd and took out a book from his storage belt. That book was the Handbook of Demon Beasts that Chang Wei had accumulated over the years. The handbook included all kinds of high-level and holy-level demon beasts in Penglai and the mainland. Not only were there pictures in the manual, but there were also information about the bloodlines, owners, ages, heights, and fur colors of the various magical beasts. Although Chang Wei had offered a high price of 10,000 purple gold, the reward he would receive from the Beastmaster and the egg would definitely be several times higher than 10,000 purple gold. This was much more profitable than trading eggs and young magic beasts. Chang Wei believed that no matter how picky the male Kirin was, it would definitely be able to find a magical beast it liked in this magical beast dating handbook. Chang Wei kept talking. Brother Dollar, what type do you like? Tall, short, fat, skinny. Do you want a female leopard or a lioness? Or do you want a female elephant? Yinsheng was touching Dollar's neck when she suddenly felt nothing. In the next moment, the entire empty ship was filled with shrill screams. Yinsheng felt as if there was a meteor in front of her. A gold light flashed, and Dollar stood up. He jumped up and bit Chang Wei, who was trying to suck up to him. Dollar's eyes were full of anger. With a beautiful swing of his neck, Chang Wei flew out of the empty ship like a broken bag. In order to ensure the safety of the passengers, there was a magic wall around the dragon-flying ship, which could block the attack of less than 10 advanced flying demon beasts. However, Dollar's swing was so powerful that Chang Wei directly broke through the magic wall and flew out. The patrolling hunters on the side did not know what had happened. They hurriedly flew out of the empty ship to save people. Dollar, you will kill him. Yinsheng did not expect Dollar to be so angry. Everyone on the empty ship heard Dollar's action. Yinsheng was worried that someone would die, so she could only fly out of the empty ship to help search for Chang Wei's whereabouts. Fortunately, Chang Wei was lucky. After being thrown out, he fell on the sea. After being rescued by the hunters, he broke a few bones in his body. After emergency treatment, his life was saved. Yinsheng was also unlucky. On the one hand, she had to save Chang Wei. On the other hand, she had to compensate for the loss of the civilian empty ship. If it were not for her good attitude and prompt compensation, the captain of the dragon-flying ship might have thrown her and Dollar off the ship. But even so, the dragon-flying ship blacklisted the demon beast Dollar, who caused the accident. Next time, Dollar was not allowed to take any empty ship related to the dragon-flying ship. If the dignified regent of Great Zhou was kicked off the ship as a troublemaker and missed the invitation of the prince regent of Penglai, who knew how many people would laugh their heads off. After Yunsheng returned to the empty ship, Dollar was still sulking. Yunsheng was also a little annoyed. She felt that Dollar was too unreasonable. If he wanted it, he would take it. If he did not want it, he would not be forced to mate. Stupid woman, you actually want me to mate with a group of female beasts. Yi Baiming was really angry this time. He did not eat or drink. For the next few hours, he ignored Yunsheng. Yunsheng could feel a strong sense of resentment from its body. This time, he seemed to be really angry. He directly faced Yunsheng with his butt and lay in the cabin. After playing with the sheep, he saw that both of them were angry. He went forward and asked. Only then did he know that such an episode had happened. Bo, Puff, mating, Dollar wants to mate? The sheep still wanted to see the world in chaos and jumped up and down. If his little master knew that Dollar was the Kirin boy, he really did not know what expression she would show. Bo, don't pester him. Dollar is too temperamental, Yunsheng said angrily. Dear master, Bo, don't be angry. Being angry will make you old and ugly. Dollar just doesn't like him. You can just throw him to someone else. Besides, Dollar already has someone he likes. Because the Kirin boy did not allow the sheep to reveal his identity. The sheep could only try hard to hint to Yunsheng. His master was so smart that she would definitely understand what he meant. Even if the Kirin boy had changed his appearance now, he still circled around his master every day. The way he looked at his master was enough to melt a large piece of purple gold, or his master should have noticed it. Wait a minute. Are you saying Dollar has a female beast he likes? Yunsheng tilted her head and thought for a moment. Could it be a demon beast under her own demon beast? Yunsheng thought for a moment and walked in front of the Kirin. Dollar, you don't have a crush on the Night Demon Queen, do you? Yunsheng thought about it and felt that among all the magical beasts, the one that was most in line with Dollar's aesthetic taste should be the Night Demon Queen, who was more enchanting than a human. The kissing sheep, which was still fluttering in the air, suddenly fell from midair. The sheep groaned weakly. While his master was really stupid in some ways, there was no cure for it. Chapter 984. This stupid woman. If she didn't give him to someone else, she wouldn't feel good, right? It would have been better if Yunsheng hadn't asked. Her question was like adding oil to the fire. Dollar snorted loudly and completely ignored Yunsheng. Yunsheng was rebuffed for no reason and became even more depressed. Dollar didn't make up with Yunsheng, and Yunsheng couldn't bring herself to make up with it. In the middle of the night, Yunsheng still had a belly full of anger and fell asleep. As she slept, she dreamed of Yi Baiming. Red shadows flickered, and everywhere was a red fire. Vaguely, it was back to the day when Yi Baiming took off her veil. His face was still red from being drunk, and his lips were curled into a naughty smile. His handsome features were reflected in Yunsheng's eyes. His gray eyes were a little drunk, filled with joy and confusion. His lips gently fell on her body, and she felt her body heating up little by little. But suddenly, Yi Baiming's face turned into the face of the black Qilin. It opened its bloody mouth and bit Yunsheng's neck. Not knowing whether it was because of the pain or the pain of the wound, Yunsheng screamed in her sleep. Just as Yunsheng thought that she would die under the black Qilin's mouth, a deafening roar sounded in her ears. A golden light flashed, and Dollar descended from the sky like a god of war. He bit the black Qilin and started fighting with it. Yunsheng wanted to stop the two Qilins, but she couldn't even make a sound from her throat. In the end, Dollar and the black Qilin disappeared together. Yunsheng woke up with a start. She felt that her cheeks were wet. It turned out that there were a few drops of tears in the corner of her eyes. She didn't know if it was because of uneasiness or sadness. Yunsheng reached out to wipe the tears from the corners of her eyes. She felt something soft in her hand. She looked back and found that Dollar was lying beside her without her knowing. Tonight, it was very quiet. It lay on its side beside Yunsheng. His golden eyes shone in the night. When it saw the tears in the corners of Yunsheng's eyes, it stuck out its tongue and licked Yunsheng's tears clean. Dollar's tongue was soft, and the taste buds on his tongue tickled Yunsheng's face. The sadness in the dream seemed to have dissipated all at once. Yunsheng recalled what happened during the day and what Baby Sheep said. She suddenly felt a little guilty. She looked up and her bright face was filled with guilt. She tried to wrap her arms around Dollar's neck. Yunsheng's voice was as small as a mosquito's. She said, "I'm sorry, Dollar. I was wrong, and I won't give you to anyone else in the future." A faint shyness appeared on her face. Even in the dark night, it could be seen clearly. Because she had just woken up, Yunsheng's voice was still a little coquettish. On her delicate face, her black eyes were like the best black jade, shining brightly. At this time, she didn't look like the regent of Great Zhou, nor did she look indifferent as a doctor. Instead, she looked like a little girl who was acting coquettishly after quarreling with her lover. Yi Baiming had never seen Yunsheng like this. Yi Baiming had been full of resentment, but in the middle of the night, he couldn't help but miss Yunsheng's soft and fragrant body. He still quietly climbed onto the bed and saw that Yunsheng was still curled up into a small ball, as usual, leaving an empty space for her. The resentment from before had all disappeared in an instant. Yi Baiming knew that he had fallen for Yunsheng for the rest of his life. This little woman, no matter if she was unreasonable or gentle, she could completely subdue him. At this moment, he suddenly heard Yunsheng crying the name Night Fox. His heart ached as if it had been struck by lightning. Forget it. This woman was born slow when it came to relationships. Yi Baiming stared at Yunsheng's face. There was still some fear on her bright face. Did she apologize just now? This woman had always been vicious, and this was the first time she had ever apologized in such a tone. However, what did she do wrong? She wasn't the one at fault. He was the one who hid his identity. Yi Baiming's throat rolled. He had a strong urge to tell Yunsheng that he was Yi Baiming. A silent warmth was transmitted between the man and beast. Yunsheng stared at the golden qilin. Suddenly, a thought flashed through her mind. The face of the black qilin in the dream overlapped and intertwined with Dollar's face. Her black eyes darkened as she suddenly thought of something. What Dollar did every day, reading memorials, climbing on the bed, and getting angry for no reason earlier. Could it be Dollar? Are you? The hand around Yunsheng's neck tightened a little. Just as she was about to ask, the bed suddenly shook violently. Yunsheng's body tilted, and she almost rolled to the ground. Fortunately, Dollar reacted quickly and hugged Yunsheng and rolled on the ground. What's going on? Yunsheng felt that the entire ship seemed to have hit something. The hull shook violently. This collision woke up everyone on the ship. There was a commotion. Then, they heard hunters and crew members shouting outside. Everyone, gather on the deck immediately. There might be a sea beast attack. Sea beast? Yunsheng was even more surprised. The golden qilin's expression also became vigilant. Penglai was located in the far southeastern sea of the mainland. It took many days of sailing. It was said that some sea beasts did appear on the sea. However, even if they encountered sea beasts, they would only be on the ship. The dragon-flying ship was flying at an altitude of more than 1,000 meters. It had never encountered a sea beast before. What kind of sea beast had the ability to threaten the ship at an altitude of 1,000 meters? Yunsheng felt strange, but at this time, the ship had stopped flying. It was as if it had fallen into a quagmire. The hull swayed from side to side, making squeaking sounds. Knowing that the situation was wrong, Yunsheng no longer hesitated. She picked up her magic scepter and sat on Dollar's back. Yunsheng grabbed the sleeping baby sheep and rushed to the deck. She found that the third deck was already filled with people inside and outside. 2 magic waterfalls appeared on both sides of the ship. The waterfalls were connected to the sky and the ground, blocking the ship's way forward and backward. Some people had just woken up from their sleep. Their faces were still filled with fear and uneasiness. Yunsheng even saw Chong Wei. He was still wrapped up and squeezed at the bow of the ship, trying to look down and see what was on the sea. There were too many people at the bow. It was difficult to squeeze in. The golden qilin did not need Yunsheng's command. Its 4 powerful limbs rose into the air steadily with Yunsheng. It was convenient for Yunsheng to check the bottom of the ship. Chapter 985. Yunsheng sat on the back of the golden qilin and quickly rose into the air to see the situation clearly. Almost at the same time, 3 to 4 figures rose from the empty ship. They were 2 sky-level magicians and 2 warrior saint-level warriors. These people were dressed as hunters. Yin Sheng was secretly shocked. She did not notice that there were a few experts hidden on this empty ship. How could an ordinary airship guard afford to hire such an expert? It seemed that this flying dragon ship was not like what she knew before. It was just a civilian empty ship. How could it be worthy of such level of guards? There must be something strange. There must be something hidden on this empty ship. Yun Sheng paid attention to the 4 people, and the 4 people also paid attention to Yun Sheng. Yun Sheng was not afraid of their probing. After all, she had the Night Demon Queen's disguise. Ordinary people would not be able to see her true strength. Sure enough, the 4 experts did not feel any strong magic power or do qi from Yun Sheng. They looked at the magical beast under Yun Sheng and withdrew their gazes. The 5 of them looked down separately. Tonight was the first day of the new year. There were no stars or moon in the sky. In such a night, looking down from above, the sea level was like an endless black silk. Other than that, there was nothing else. With Yun Sheng's Shun-known pupil, she did not feel any magic or do qi at a glance. It seemed that the attack of the sea monsters that the crew mentioned earlier was just a misunderstanding. After confirming that there was nothing on the sea, the 4 experts' faces relaxed. They were obviously relieved, but their expressions were still dignified. The 2 magic waterfalls were like 2 white chains that pierced straight into the sea from the sky, connecting the sky and the ground. They blocked the airship's path of advance and retreat. They were like 2 walls that trapped the airship in the sea. It seemed that the flying dragon ship accidentally broke into an unknown sea magic array and triggered the magic restriction, forming these 2 magic waterfalls. Abundant water magic elements kept gushing out from the magic waterfalls. The captain discussed with his crew members. They were all old crew members of the Flying Dragon. They had been active in this area for many years and had never heard of any magic circle in this area. Everyone, there's no need to panic. The hunters on the ship will definitely work together to break the magic waterfall. We'll be able to resume our normal sailing around dawn at the latest. The captain comforted the passengers. There were about 100 hunters on the Flying Dragon Special Forces. It seemed like they had hired a medium-sized hunting group. After a discussion between the captain and the hunting squad, the 2 martial saints were the first to walk out. Behind them were 30 strong, brawny hunters whose fists were the size of bowls and whose foreheads were plump, who were obviously good at fighting. Immediately afterwards, the 2 sky mages also walked out. Behind them, there was also a team of mage hunters whose skills were not below that of master mages. Both sides stood at the front and back of the boat, facing the 2 magic waterfalls. Yun Sheng could clearly see that these people were probably going to rely on magic and battle techniques to forcefully break through. Even though they were from the same hunting squad, the warriors and mages on both sides were clearly competing. Brothers, 10,000 thunderbolt fists. The 2 martial artists shouted loudly. More than 30 cultivators exuded vigorous fighting auras. Countless shadows of fists blasted towards the magic waterfalls in an instant. These warriors had obviously been trained. The shadows of their fists overlapped to form waves of fists. Like hundreds of horses, they formed a force of thousands of pounds and crashed into the magic waterfalls. Thunderous Punch, as the name suggested, was a battle technique that had the effect of augmenting combat energy. For this type of battle technique, the more people there were, the more powerful it was. A warrior's fist strength was up to 500 pounds. If 2 people's fist strength was up to 500 pounds, the total fist strength of 30 warriors added together was more than 15,000 pounds. With such strength, not to mention a magic waterfall, even a stone wall could be easily broken. However, what surprised everyone was that the fist strength, which was as strong as 10,000 horses galloping, immediately collapsed when it collided with the magic waterfalls. The fist strength did not even cause a splash, let alone break the magic waterfalls. Yun Sheng secretly shook her head. The water element was originally the element with the strongest flexibility among the 4 major elements. Like water, it could almost block all strong and fierce attacks. Seeing that the 30 warriors did not succeed in breaking the magic waterfalls, the two sky mages still had some contempt on their faces. Warriors were warriors. All of them were muscular and did not use their brains. How could a magic waterfall be broken by strong and fierce battle techniques? Everyone, listen my orders. Get into formation. The two sky mages walked forward. The mages began chanting at the same time. Bang, bang, bang. Just like a well-trained archer, the moment the magic chanting ended, in the nearby air, yellow ripples of magic elements appeared. Like red tasseled spears, the ground spikes pierced through the magic waterfalls. The magic waterfalls were pierced through, and water splashed everywhere like broken jade. Immediately, dozens of holes appeared on the waterfalls. The entire magic waterfalls seemed to be about to collapse at any time. For a moment, the magic water elements were in chaos. Among the 4 elements of nature, there was a saying that they reinforced and countered each other. For example, fire magic was naturally at a disadvantage against water magic. Different situations call for different measures. Water-type magic was naturally at a disadvantage when it came to earth-type magic. These mages were obviously dead set on this point, and used earth spikes to forcefully break through. Mages are still the best. On the deck, the passengers were overjoyed and cheered when they saw the magic waterfalls on the verge of collapse. But Yinsheng was not too happy. She stared at the holes made by the ground spikes. Her pupils constricted and turned golden. What others couldn't see, she could see clearly. Just as the waterfalls were pierced, countless water elements rushed towards the holes. Look, the waterfalls are healing again. Under everyone's gaze, the magic waterfalls that were on the verge of collapse quickly healed and returned to normal. It was as if the magic attack just now was just a joke. The two sky mages stared at the magic waterfalls as if they had seen a ghost. Their hopes were dashed all at once. On the ship, tension was spreading. The dragon-flying ship was in the middle of the open sea, far away from the mainland and Penglai. If they were trapped in the magic waterfalls, once the fresh water and food on the ship ran out, nearly 1,000 people on the ship would be trapped to death. At this time, it was already dawn in the east. Chapter 986. Even though they had not slept for the entire night, no one was willing to return to the cabin to rest. Are we going to be trapped here alive? This was the only question in everyone's mind. Captain, if someone could send a message to Penglai, is there a way to break these 2 magic waterfalls? Just as the captain was at his wit's end, he heard a voice. The captain looked up and saw a man in black clothes. The man was about 17 or 18 years old. His skin was slightly dark, and his eyes were long and narrow. His clothes were not very extravagant. At first glance, he was unremarkable, but upon closer inspection, he had a special aura. Do you have a way to open the magic waterfalls? The captain was hopeful, but when he realized that there was no magic or fighting aura around the man, his hope was dashed. The man nodded first, then shook his head. The person who spoke was Yinsheng. Yinsheng had Shenong Eye, so she could see more clearly than the others on the ship. These 2 magic waterfalls were not simple. They were not ordinary magic seals, but 2 magic seals that had a life of their own. They had the ability to repair themselves and were extremely resilient. Yinsheng suspected that these 2 magic waterfalls were controlled by someone. However, as long as the enemy did not show himself, Yinsheng could not make a judgment. Before she was certain, Yinsheng would not try to break the 2 magic waterfalls. She did not want to waste her magic, which would not be worth the loss. Before discovering the enemy's goal, Yinsheng decided to preserve her strength as much as possible. Yi Baiming obviously thought so too. He was very quiet. Most of the time, he just watched coldly from the sidelines as the hunters made useless attempts. Yi Baiming could clearly see that the 2 magic waterfalls were not to be underestimated, let alone a few sky magicians and martial sages. Even martial emperors and law overlords of the Holy Realm would have to expend some effort to get rid of them. In order to get rid of the 2 magic waterfalls, they had to find the source of the seal. I can send a message, but I can't save everyone. Yinsheng's idea was actually to let baby sheep send a message. With that, Yunsheng pointed at baby sheep, who had been sleeping on her shoulders since last night. As a world deity beast, baby sheep could ignore all magic restrictions. It could easily escape. However, baby sheep could only ensure that it could escape on its own. It could not lead Yunsheng or the others on the airship away. Yunsheng told him the whole story, and the captain looked at the pink lump on Yunsheng's shoulder in disbelief. It did not match his appearance at all. The eyes of the magical beast merchant Chong Wei, who was bandaged like a mummy, lit up when he saw the popping sheep. This was another magical beast of unknown rank. Furthermore, it was a magical beast that could break through any magical restriction. Judging from the color of its fur, it was pink. It would definitely be very popular among the noble women and the young ladies of the imperial family. Since he could not borrow the golden Qilin, perhaps he could discuss with young Master Yin the next time and borrow this pink demonic beast for breeding. Chong Wei was really envious of Yunsheng. He really did not know where she came from. The magical beasts around her were each more powerful than the other. Popping sheep suddenly felt a gaze that harbored ill intentions. It shivered, and its black, bean-sized eyes immediately widened as it looked around vigilantly. The captain then saw baby sheep's appearance clearly. This magical beast that did not seem to have any lethality, could it really break through the magic waterfall that even sky magician-level experts could not break through? Baby sheep was very smart. It immediately sensed the deep disbelief in the captain's eyes. Ignorant humans, how dare you look down on this world deity? Flo. No, this world deity wanted them to prostrate themselves in admiration. Baby sheep proudly passed through the magic waterfall with a swoosh sound. Before the captain could react, that pink little body, like a magic trick, passed through the waterfall with a swoosh sound and landed on Yunsheng's shoulder. During the whole process, baby sheep did not even get its fur wet. Only then did the captain believe it. He was very excited. Then I'll have to trouble young master. Let your magical beast go to the Zao state immediately and say that Long Xiong is in trouble. When the people of the Zao state know about it, they will naturally come to help. It seemed that Long Xiong was actually related to the Zao state. Yunsheng really did not know whether to laugh or cry. She just wanted to keep a low profile and travel incognito. Unexpectedly, this ship was actually related to the Zao state. There was indeed something hidden on the ship, but since things had already come to this, Yunsheng did not expose it and agreed to the captain's request. What she was more worried about now was whether she could successfully reach Penglai before the 15th of this month. Baby sheep, fly towards the east where the sun rises and find the location of Penglai. Then inform the local Zao state that Long Xiong is in trouble and ask them to quickly send people to save it. Yunsheng repeatedly instructed. Baby sheep finally heard it clearly. It wriggled its two meaty wings, passed through the magic waterfall, and flew towards Penglai. The group could only wait on the flying dragon ship. Baby sheep flew all the way. Facing the vast sea, it muttered, "Fly towards the east, fly towards the east." After flying for several hours, baby sheep suddenly realized that it could not tell which side was east. Which side is east? Baby sheep's road blindness acted up again. Baby sheep, master said that the sun sets in the east. East, baby sheep is coming. Baby sheep flapped its meaty wings and flew towards the direction where the sun sets. After flying for the whole night, baby sheep did not see any ghost. Just as baby sheep's energy was about to run out, it suddenly saw a bright light in front of it. Baby sheep, there's a ship. Baby sheep's eyes were almost filled with tears. It quickly looked at the empty ship that was rapidly approaching. Baby sheep flew so fast that it did not notice that the dark blue empty ship had the flag of Later Qin hanging on it. This empty ship was Dugu Xiu's empty ship that had left Later Qin a few days ago and was heading towards Penglai. It was already late at night, and Dugu Xiu had not yet fallen asleep. He was flipping through a few memorials. At this time, a subtle sound of flapping wings entered his ears. Although the sound was very soft, it was very obvious in the dark night. Dugu Xiu secretly thought that this thing that did not know life from death actually dared to barge into Later Qin's empty ship. Dugu Xiu's sword-like eyebrows furrowed. His figure immediately disappeared. He had already left the cabin and rushed towards the source of the sound. Just as Dugu Xiao was about to make a move to kill this untactful magical beast, an eye-catching pink figure suddenly stopped in its tracks. "Baby sheep, why is it you again, hateful red-haired monster?" Dugu Xiao's scalp twitched. He felt that he had heard this voice somewhere before. He raised his head and saw a pink demonic beast flying in the air. Chapter 987. Men, release the arrows. Hearing the sound, Madame Chi Bai and the soldiers in the cabin raised their bows and aimed at popping sheep in the sky. Later Qin, iron blood bows were made with the tendons of magical beasts. Every arrow was quenched with magical beast blood and had amazing power. These archers had undergone strict training. Under the command, arrows shot towards popping sheep like a dense rain. Murder. Murder for money. Robbery. Popping sheep's round body was unusually agile in the rain of arrows. It scuttled to the east and jumped to the west. Those sharp arrows that were enough to kill were all dodged by it. Hearing popping sheep's nonsensical words, Dugu Xiao raised his eyebrows. Stop. With his special color and that super quiet and poisonous tongue, although popping sheep's appearance was somewhat different from the egg from a few years ago, Dugu Xiao had already confirmed its identity. Red-haired monster, snake spirit woman, a pair of male and female perverts. Popping sheep was scared half to death by the arrows. Its little heart was still pounding. It decided that when it officially took up the post and became a world deity, it must unify these people. Unify. Flow. Release. You are Yun Sheng's magical beast egg? Dugu Xiao's heartbeat couldn't help but speed up. Popping sheep's appearance here meant that Yun Sheng was also nearby. However, there was no familiar magic fluctuation in the surroundings. Seeing Dugu Xiao's dazed appearance, Madame Chi Bai clenched her teeth. She also had some impression of this egg. Puffed egg had a unique color, a loud voice, and a poisonous tongue. There is only one egg on the continent that had such a virtue. Unexpectedly, this egg's vitality was quite tenacious. After being hit by He Linling's Shilin blade, it actually didn't die. Moreover, it was a blessing in disguise and hatched successfully. Your Majesty, this magical beast sneaked around in the middle of the night and appeared on the empty ship. It must want to assassinate. We must capture it, lock it up, and interrogate it properly. Madame Chi Bai saw popping sheep and knew that Yun Sheng must have also come to Penglai. Dugu Xiao was also puzzled. Yun Sheng's magic beast didn't seem to have any abilities. How did it pass through the magic defense around the ship? And as Yun Sheng's natal magical beast, why would it appear here? Could it be that something happened to Yun Sheng? Ba, you snake spirit, which eye of yours saw this world deity sneaking in? The sky is so big, is it all yours? This world deity wants to go to Penglai. Bobo Sheep spat a few times. Go to Penglai? Hearing popping sheep's words, Dugu Xiao and Madame Chi Bai's expressions changed. But this direction was obviously the opposite of Penglai. If baby sheep hadn't met them, wouldn't it have flown to Later Qin? Why are you going to Penglai? Are you and Yun Sheng separated? Dugu Xiao couldn't tell whether he wanted to see Yun Sheng or avoid her. Bobo is shouldering a super big mission to save the life of the entire ship. Master and the flying dragon ship are trapped in the sea ahead by two magic waterfalls. I'm going to Penglai to find reinforcements, Bobo Sheep said proudly. It didn't have time to assassinate. When Dugu Xiao heard that Yun Sheng was trapped, his expression suddenly changed. Why is Yun Sheng on the civilian empty ship? Zhou State actually let her go to Penglai alone? Where is she trapped? Red-haired monster, why are you speaking in such a reproachful tone? Why should this world deity answer you? My dear master likes to keep a low profile. Not everyone is as extravagant and wasteful as a certain someone. Egg-popping glared at Dugu Xiao and prepared to fly away. Who knew that just after a few flaps, Dugu Xiao was as fast as lightning and grabbed its two pairs of fleshy wings. Bobo, you dare to catch this world deity, exile. Before the word exile could come out, Dugu Xiao, who had already experienced Bobo Sheep's poisonous tongue, directly blocked Bobo Sheep's mouth with a ball of cloth. Search along the way and find the whereabouts of the flying dragon ship, Duguxiu immediately ordered. Madam Qi was a little anxious when she heard this. Your Majesty, this is the boundary of Peng Lai. Searching here requires the consent of Peng Lai. Should we inform Peng Lai first? Madam Qi knew that as long as Yunsheng was involved, Duguxiu would lose control. All right, send a message to the Prince Regent of Peng Lai, Duguxiu thought for a while. Although he was the emperor of later Qin, it was better to be cautious in the territory of other countries to avoid unnecessary disputes. Duguxiu immediately sent someone to send a message to Peng Lai. A day later, a messenger falcon flew to a majestic building. This building was golden and dazzling. In the sunlight, it was like a palace of the sun. Peng Lai Pavilion was located in the country of Peng Lai. Unlike the palaces of other countries, Peng Lai did not have an imperial palace. However, there was a world-famous Peng Lai Pavilion. Peng Lai Pavilion was near the mountain and the water. Looking into the distance from the pavilion, one could see the sea view. The messenger falcon flew into a golden pavilion. At this time, the sun was rising from the east. A man in purple was wearing a mask on his face. The man in purple had a head of long silver hair that made people gasp in amazement. The faint luster of his hair was like the finest silver under the sunlight. His skin that was exposed outside of his purple clothes was delicate like the finest porcelain. On the face of the man in purple, there was a white jade mask. Other than a pair of eyes, only half of his chin was exposed. However, just half of his chin was like a white jade carving. It was even more delicate than the mask. However, other than this, nothing else could be seen. The man was reviewing a memorial in his hand. When he heard the messenger falcon's cry, he raised his head. The man raised his hand. The messenger falcon flapped its wings and landed on his hand. The messenger falcon was a powerful, flying, magical beast. However, in the hands of this man, it was very docile. The dragon-flying ship is in danger. The regent of Great Zhou is also trapped on the ship. The man's voice was very pleasant to the ears. It was like beads rolling on a jade plate. He was a little surprised. The letter was actually written by Duguxiu of later Qin. When did the iron-blooded emperor of later Qin become so warm-hearted? Moreover, as far as he knew, Duguxiu and the one from Zhou State should have a grudge against each other for stealing his wife. The grudge of stealing his wife. Lord Prince Regent, should we send troops? A guard captain asked respectfully from the side. A friend has come from afar. Peng Lai doesn't have anything good to entertain him. Let the sea beasts entertain the distinguished guest from afar. For some reason, the Prince Regent of Peng Lai didn't seem to like the distinguished guest from Zhou State. Did the Prince Regent mean that he was going to leave him in the lurch? The guard captain was stunned. Peng Lai of Gojouzian's temperament had always been indifferent. He didn't like or hate people. He didn't know what kind of grudge the Prince Regent of Zhou State had with his master. However, they were just subordinates. How could they have the courage to speculate too much about their master's thoughts? The guard captain didn't say anything else and left. Peng Lai of Gojouzian sat in the pavilion. He tapped the table with his long fingers and looked at the sea with his amber eyes. On the sea, the wind and waves were gradually rising. It seemed that the wind was about to blow. Chapter 988. The sun rose and set. Another day passed. For those who were trapped in the magic waterfall, the days were always particularly difficult. The sound of the two magic waterfalls was still reverberating, and there was no sign of it weakening or disappearing. The flying dragon ship had been trapped in the magic waterfall for an entire day. The captain and the passengers were anxiously waiting on the deck. Yunsheng leaned against the golden qilin and narrowed her eyes. It had been a day since baby sheep left. Logically speaking, they should have arrived at Peng Lai. Around evening, an empty ship appeared in front of them. There was an explosive cheer on the flying dragon ship. However, there was no joy on Yunsheng's face. She saw the sign of the empty ship clearly. The golden qilin also let out a low growl. Didn't they ask baby sheep to find Peng Lai of Gojouzian for reinforcements? Why was it an empty ship from later Qin? Moreover, The person standing on the deck with a murderous aura and flame-like red hair was none other than the Emperor of Later Qin, Dugu Xiu. Is this the flying dragon ship? I am Dugu Xiu of Later Qin. Because it was an unfamiliar sea area, Dugu Xiu's empty ship also carried out a thorough search before they found the exact location of the flying dragon ship. When the people on the flying dragon ship heard that the other party was actually the Emperor of Later Qin, Dugu Xiu, they were excited and flattered. Later Qin Dugu Xiu's name was quite famous on the mainland. They heard that this person was ruthless and ruthless. He was an ambitious and ruthless person. He actually had the leisure to rescue a ship from another country. Yi Baiming also had the same thought. Dugu Xiu, that brat, still hadn't given up on his little wildcat. Yinsheng also noticed that the captain of the flying dragon ship was not too surprised after hearing Dugu Xiu's name. Instead, he secretly exchanged glances with the masters of the hunting group. The water vapor from the magic waterfall filled the air. Dugu Xiu's eagle eyes focused. Through the magic waterfall, he searched around the deck, but did not find the figure that he had been dreaming of. He paused. May I ask, is the regent of Great Zhou on the ship? With Dugu Xiu's question, the captain and the others, who were already on guard, were even more shocked. Not only did the Later Qin Emperor Dugu Xiu come, but even the Prince Regent of Zhou State was also on the ship? What kind of luck was this? Cold sweat broke out on the forehead of the captain of the flying dragon ship. These two people were not to be trifled with. He could only blame himself for being foolish. He thought that using an ordinary empty ship to transport that thing would be very safe. Who would have thought that by a freak combination of factors, he would encounter these two great fiends? However, why did the Dugu Emperor of Later Qin want to find the Prince Regent of Zhou State? The captain suddenly remembered a rumor that had spread throughout the continent a few years ago. It was rumored that the Later Qin Emperor had always liked the regent of Great Zhou's consort. Earlier, he had forcefully kidnapped the Prince Regent of Later Qin. In the end, Yi Baiming, who was just a nosy prince with no real power at that time, was enraged and made a grand promise of the entire country as a betrothal gift. The two of them fought fiercely. Later Qin and Zhou State fell into chaos because of this. In the end, the North Underworld King took the beauty and became the regent of Great Zhou. However, it was rumored that the Prince Regent of Zhou State's consort was kidnapped by the Later Qin Emperor. She was also cursed as a vixen who brought calamity to the continent. Since then, she had contracted a terrible disease. In the past few years, she had been seriously ill and only had half of her life left. It was also because of this that the Prince Regent of Zhou State was recognized as the #1 suffering consort on the continent. However, even so, after the Later Qin crowned Prince Dugu Xiu ascended the throne, he was still infatuated with the Prince Regent of Zhou State. Later Qin's harem still hadn't appointed a queen. The captain thought about it. Could it be that the Later Qin Emperor was here today to kidnap the Regent of Great Zhou? Oh my God, these two great Buddhas, please don't pick this time to fight. The captain's mind was in a mess, but Yunsheng was completely unaware. She also didn't know that as one of the parties involved, the Regent of Great Zhou's consort, she had become a tragic character who couldn't even trust a chicken and could die at any time in the eyes of the outside world. With regards to Dugu Xiu's sudden appearance, Yunsheng was still a little surprised. How did Dugu Xiu find her? She looked again and saw that under Dugu Xiu's left arm, there was a pink thing that kept making a fuss. Popping Sheep's face was full of grief and indignation, and there was a ball of rags stuffed in its mouth. Needless to say, Yunsheng also understood. Her own world divine beast on guard didn't seem to have a good sense of direction. Last time, it was said that when it was in the Grand Emperor's city, it also got lost. However, didn't she already tell Popping Sheep to just fly in the direction of the sunrise? There was an 80% chance that Popping Sheep couldn't recognize the direction. When she told it to fly in the direction of Penglai Pavilion, it flew in the opposite direction and flew in the direction of Later Qin. Then it met Dugu Xiu, who also came to participate in the Penglai summit. Based on Yunsheng's understanding of Dugu Xiu, this guy wasn't a kind person. If she didn't answer, he would definitely turn around and leave without even looking at the more than 1,000 people on the ship. There were also some old, weak, women, children, and sick people on the ship. If she delayed any longer, she was afraid that the situation would worsen. After thinking about it, Yunsheng walked out. Your Majesty Duguxiu, long time no see. Although Yunsheng had changed her appearance and voice, her clear voice was like a sharp sword that suddenly passed into Duguxiu's ears. Through the magic waterfall, Duguxiu could only see a slightly thin man standing at the bow of the ship. Although her appearance had changed, Yunsheng was still Yunsheng. Those pitch-black eyes and the faintly floating dimples at the corners of her mouth still made Duguxiu's eagle eyes soften a little. After confirming that Yunsheng was on the ship, Duguxiu began to rescue her. However, after he checked the situation of the magic waterfall, his expression became cautious. Earlier, Popping Sheep had only roughly said that there was a magic waterfall. Duguxiu thought that it was just a slightly more powerful magic prohibition. However, Duguxiu didn't expect that the scale of these two magic waterfalls would be so amazing. The two waterfalls were azure and boundless. The height was immeasurable, and the length was dozens of nautical miles. The waterfall's splashing water was very majestic. If later Qin's empty ship rashly attacked, it was likely that it would also be trapped in the magic waterfall. He learned from the captain that they had previously tried to use magic and fighting energy to break through, but it was all in vain. I think that this magic waterfall is a little strange. It reminds me of a kind of magical beast. Madame Qi Bai coldly observed from the side for a while. She thought of something and said to Duguxiu, Madame Qi Bai was born in the Bahuang tribe, so she knew more about magical beasts than Duguxiu, who had grown up in the royal family of later Qin. I have heard my father mention this magic waterfall before. It was created by a kind of large sea beast using magic. That kind of sea beast only grows in the deep sea. Its name is Anemone abyssalis. Madame Qi Bai hadn't seen the deep-sea tentacle flower before, but she had heard the chief of the Ba Shi tribe mention it. Anemone abyssalis, strictly speaking, wasn't a magical beast. It was a kind of carnivorous magical plant. It took root in the deep sea, and as it grew older, its tentacles would grow longer. It was proficient in all kinds of mysterious water magic. A deep-sea anemone that had lived for more than 5,000 years could grow its tentacles to several thousand meters long. In the sea, it could be considered an invincible existence. This kind of deep-sea tentacle monster is most proficient in a type of magic prohibition called the magic waterfall. This kind of prohibition. Before Madame Qi Bai could finish speaking, a cry of surprise suddenly came from the ship. Chapter 989. There was a commotion on the Flying Dragon, and Yunsheng also became alert. Just now, she felt a strong magical wave. That wave came from the power of the magic waterfall. That magical wave was not normal, and it was faintly mixed with a terrifying dark magical power. How could there be a large, dark, magical beast in the waters of Penglai? After the magical wave appeared, the two magic waterfalls moved. They kept compressing, desperately compressing, as if they were going to flatten the empty ship. What was more frightening was that when the magic waterfalls were compressing, many gray, tentacle-like things that were half a meter thick extended out from the magic waterfalls. The tentacles easily penetrated the magic defense around the Flying Dragon, as if they were piercing through a layer of paper. They wrapped around the bow and stern of the Flying Dragon and tore it apart. Seeing this, the captain immediately ordered the hunters on the ship to go forward and attack with combat skills or magic attacks. However, the tentacle completely ignored all of that. But the hunter's attacks obviously angered the tentacle monster. With the power of the waterfalls, there was a roar like that of a ferocious beast, and water splashed everywhere. Poof, poof, poof. More tentacles came out from the magic waterfalls. One of the tentacles aimed at a hunter and pierced through his chest. The hunter's body quickly withered, as if the air was sucked out of his body. Soon, only a piece of human skin was left. After the tentacles sucked human flesh and blood, they immediately grew barb-like thorns on the surface. The tentacles succeeded in one move and killed a few more people in succession. The magic waterfalls also changed color. The originally clear magic waterfalls became blood red as the tentacles killed many people in succession. The empty ship was already in a mess. The ordinary passengers only knew how to escape in all directions. They tried to get back into the cabin. The captain ordered the hunters to kill the tentacles, and, on the other hand, he had to stop the panicking passengers. There were many people on the ship. At this time, the ship had already begun to shake violently due to the panic. If this continued, not only would they be killed by the tentacle monster, the ship would also capsize due to the imbalance. Outside the magic waterfall, Dugusho's expression changed slightly. That's right, it must be Anemone abyssalis. But why would this tentacle sunflower appear here? This kind of sea anemone should only grow in the nether abyss. Even a woman as vicious as Madame Chi Bai couldn't help but change her expression after seeing the tentacle sunflower. Even though the tentacle helianthus was notorious, it was not a species from the boundless continent. It was a species from the underworld. Dugusho did not care about this. In a chaotic crowd, his gaze followed Yunsheng. But where did Yunsheng go? She couldn't find that familiar figure in the crowd. It turned out that in the chaos, just now, Yunsheng had gotten into the cabin. Although she did not know what kind of magical beast those tentacles were, Yunsheng could tell from the magical waves on their bodies that they were very difficult to deal with. Yunsheng felt a familiar aura from them. Yunsheng's memory was very good. She could almost remember everything she saw. She quickly remembered that she had found the same magical waves on someone before. The Netherworld Ghost King. In the Taiyuan ruins, Yunsheng was sent back to the Taiyuan castle more than 500 years ago by space-time magic. There, she had met the Netherworld Ghost King once. At that time, the other party's aura was exactly the same as the tentacle monster that committed the crime. Before the puffed egg hatched, Yunsheng's knowledge of the Netherworld Ghost King was only based on the Netherworld Ghost Key. However, after the puffed sheep hatched, it told Yunsheng that there were other realms outside this continent. The Netherworld Ghost Prison belonged to the underworld outside the human realm. These creatures that should only live in the underworld suddenly appeared in the Penglai Sea of the boundless continent. There must be a reason. Yunsheng suspected that this reason was hidden in the flying dragon ship. Yunsheng had paid close attention to the expressions of the captain and the hunters. Especially after Du Guxiu came later Qin. Their eyes were evasive, and their gazes would occasionally look towards the cabin. Thus, in the chaos just now, Yunsheng took advantage of the chaos to sneak into the cabin under the cover of the golden Qilin. There was no one else in the cabin, so Yunsheng quickly found the captain's room. After searching the captain's room for a while, Yunsheng discovered that there was a secret chamber under the captain's bed. After opening the secret chamber, Yunsheng found a wooden box made of black oak. Just as Yunsheng was about to open the box, she heard a piercing sound behind her ear. Her scalp went numb, and Yunsheng's figure flashed as she used the night demon footwork. Her toes touched the ground, and she had already dodged this fatal sneak attack. At the same time that Yunsheng dodged, sharp black thorns broke out from the ground and ruthlessly stabbed toward the sneak attacker behind her. Immediately after, several balls of fire exploded, and the entire cabin was instantly filled with thick smoke. Prince Regent, you can't touch this thing. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. The captain of the flying dragon ship was glaring angrily at Yunsheng and the black box in her hands. His knee had already been injured by Yunsheng's black thorns, and there was a wound on his knee. The captain of the flying dragon ship obviously still had some reservations about the regent of Great Zhou. After all, everyone on the continent knew that the regent of Great Zhou was the youngest martial emperor on the continent. However, no one expected that the prince regent was also a sorcerer. You're not the captain of the flying dragon ship. Tell me, what's in this box? The box wasn't heavy, and Yunsheng tried to use her sorcery to penetrate it. However, there was obviously a magic restriction outside the box, and Yunsheng couldn't see clearly what was inside at that moment. Prince Regent, you're an honored guest of Penglai, but there are some things that you shouldn't know. Otherwise, even if you're a martial emperor, you won't be able to escape death. The captain of the flying dragon ship smiled proudly. He abruptly tore open his outer robe, revealing the robe underneath. He wasn't wearing a sorcerer's robe or a warrior's robe, but a summoner's robe. Yunsheng had seen a similar robe on the summoner Bingling at the Wandong gambling house before. However, in comparison, this summoner's robe was obviously of a higher level. It was crimson in color. In Yunsheng's mind, the hierarchy of the Zhao state quickly appeared. In the Zhao state, only the cardinal could wear a crimson summoner's robe. The lower the level of the summoner's robe, the lighter the color. The summoner in front of her was wearing a crimson summoner's robe. Could it be that he was... Yunsheng's lips curled into a faint smile. That's right. I'm one of the 13 main summoners of the Zhao state, the 7th main summoner of the Zhao state. Since you know my identity, shouldn't the Prince Regent hand over the thing in your hands? The 7th main summoner was very proud. So what if he was a martial emperor? In the eyes of these summoners, only the Emperor Zhao in red was the supreme existence. Moreover, they were on the territory of Penglai. The 7th summoner noticed that the expression of the regent of the Great Zhou dynasty changed subtly after hearing his identity. Chapter 990. So, it's the 7th summoner. Pardon my disrespect. Since it's something that Lord Summoner personally escorted, how could this prince take it for himself? Yunsheng spoke respectfully as he handed over the Xiaohei box with both hands. The 7th summoner was very satisfied. Just as the 7th summoner was about to take the Xiaohei box, a sly smile suddenly appeared on Yunsheng's face. Zhao state? Kill. Yunsheng's wrist suddenly flicked, and the Xiaohei box immediately flew out of his hand and was thrown behind the 7th summoner. The 7th summoner was furious and was about to catch the black box. Boom! There was a sudden violent tremor in the cabin. A black tentacle rushed into the cabin and attacked the Xiaohei box. The 7th summoner turned pale with fright after snatching the Xiaohei box. He didn't dare to fight it head-on and immediately started chanting. A summoning formation flickered beside him, and a sacred bloodthirsty bear half the height of a human appeared in the cabin. The sacred bloodthirsty bear roared and swung its paw at the tentacle. The tentacle hit the sacred bloodthirsty bear head-on and nimbly wrapped itself around its neck. The sacred bloodthirsty bear's neck was tightly strangled and violently flung out. Suddenly, more than 10 tentacles reached into the cabin. Without exception, their target was the Xiaohei box. Why you did it on purpose? The 7th main summoner used the Wind Shadow spell to dodge the tentacle's attack. Then, he looked at the Great Zhou regent, who had a relaxed expression. He suddenly understood why the other party would hand over the black box so easily. It seemed that he already knew that the tentacle's target was the Xiaohei box. Thanks to the Xiaohei box, more and more tentacles entered the cabin and attacked the 7th summoner. Roar! Dozens of tentacles pierced the sacred bloodthirsty bear's chest and tore it into pieces. The tentacles wriggled, sucking the internal organs and flesh of the sacred tattoo bear. In front of these tentacles, a saint-level magical beast could not last more than a few rounds before it was cruelly killed. When the sacred tattoo bear died, the 7th summoner situation wasn't any better. Summoners relied on their summoned beasts to fight. The 7th main summoner felt as if his body was being torn apart, and his organs were in intense pain. He didn't dare to stay any longer. The black box in his hand was like a hot potato. In order to save his life, he threw out the black box. The target of those tentacles was indeed the black box. Seeing that the black box had left his hand, the tentacles all rushed towards it. Just as the tentacle touched the black box, a strange power came out of the black box. The tentacles were not on guard. They only felt a burst of numbness in their tentacles, and the black box they were holding fell out of their hands. The 7th summoner was stunned. What was going on? Of course, he didn't know that when Yunsheng threw out the black box, she had secretly injected some of the power of the soul-healing magical needle into the box. Once it encountered external pressure, the power of the soul-healing magical needle would burst out through the black box. The tentacles were shocked and felt their tentacles go numb. For a moment, they didn't have any hands to catch the black box. The black box rolled on the ground. Yinsheng calmly picked it up. The seventh summoner's face was pale, as if he had seen a ghost. He pointed at Yunsheng and said, "Prince Regent, are you crazy? How dare you go against the Zhao state? This box belongs to the Emperor Zhao. Do you want to be enemies with the Emperor Zhao? Who does Emperor Zhao think he is? This prince is killing people from the Zhao state." Yinsheng curved her lips into an extremely cold smile. It would have been better if she hadn't mentioned the Zhao state, but once she mentioned the Zhao state, Yinsheng became angry. If it wasn't for that bullshit Emperor Zhao and the Zhao state, her mother wouldn't have lost her memory, her father wouldn't have run away from home, and she wouldn't have ended up like this. The people she was killing were people from the Zhao state. As she spoke, the tentacles that were temporarily numbed by the soul-healing magical needle gradually regained their senses. Yinsheng bent her body like a bow. She bent her long legs and jumped back like a springboard. She directly pierced through the cabin and broke through the air. "Men, kill the regent of Great Zhou." The seventh summoner had lost a summoned beast and was heavily injured. The worst thing was that he had been played by the regent of Great Zhou. His eyes were red with anger. He was like a red-eyed bull as he shouted. That black box had been ordered by the Emperor Zhao in red to escort it. To the Zhao state, the item in the black box was very important. If he lost it, the seventh summoner didn't dare to think further. He endured the pain on his body and rushed out of the cabin. On the deck, on the magic waterfall, countless tentacles were like snakes coming out of their holes. They were everywhere, and there was nothing they couldn't penetrate. They were invincible, and they killed a large number of innocent passengers. On the deck, there were human skins that had been sucked dry of flesh. Dugu Xiu's eyes darted around, searching for Yunsheng's whereabouts in the chaos. Just then he caught sight of something. A beautiful figure dashed out from the cabin. Then a bishop of the Zhao state rushed out. He was flustered and exasperated as he commanded the hunters to attack Yunsheng. Just then, on the deck, the golden Kylan that had been dormant for a long time arched its back and let out a deafening roar. The golden claws were like streaks of sword shadows. With a sweep of the claws, several hunters were severely injured. Hearing Dollar's voice, Yunsheng teleported and landed accurately on the back of the golden Kylan. She waved the black box in her hand. "Dollar, we got the item. Let's go." The reason why Yunsheng didn't leave was to find out what was hidden on the ship. As for the people of Penglai, she didn't have time to care about them now. There was an extra person on the golden Kylan's back, but it was still agile. It quickly dodged the combined attacks of the tentacles and the hunters. A golden magical beast? Dugu Xiu quickly noticed that the magical beast under Yunsheng was unusual. The smell of blood attracted more tentacles from the abyss. They crazily rushed out of the magic waterfall and attacked Yunsheng. Dugu Xiu's eyes narrowed. His left arm shook, and the black scales on it expanded. He roared. His body was like a cannonball, rushing straight towards the magic waterfall. The martial emperor's power combined with the power of the halberd of the divine warrior. Dugu Xiu's figure could no longer be seen clearly. His body and fighting spirit merged into one, tearing apart the magic waterfall. Within a magic waterfall, there was a strange squeak. The tentacles seemed to have suffered a heavy blow and immediately retreated. Almost at the same time, baby sheep spat out the rag in its mouth and flew towards Yunsheng. Unable to withstand Dugu Xiu's attack, the magic waterfall began to collapse after a violent tremor. The water of the waterfall poured down like a torrential flood. The already shaky dragon-flying ship and the people on the ship were all swept into the sea. Chapter 991. The Prince Regent of Penglai, Jirumo, was in the Penglai Pavilion, discussing state affairs with the ministers of Penglai. His body suddenly stiffened, as if he had sensed something. Under the mask, the pair of amber eyes became serious. He felt a wave of dark magic power. This wave came from a sea. With a bang, he disappeared. The ministers looked at each other, not knowing what had happened. Reporting, "Prince Regent, there is a huge wave on the sea." A guard rushed in, but there was no sign of the Prince Regent in the court. At this time, hundreds of nautical miles away from Punglai, the magic waterfall had just collapsed. The Flying Dragon and later Qin's empty ship were suddenly broken in half by the violent water magic elements, and the people on the ship were all washed into the sea. Save His Majesty. Madame Qi Bai was terrified when she saw Dugu Xiu fall into the water. She knew that nothing good would happen when she met Yin Sheng. She ordered the empty ship to stabilize, and at the same time, she sent soldiers to search for Dugu Xiu's whereabouts. However, what shocked Madame Qi Bai was that after the magic waterfall collapsed, the originally calm sea suddenly became strange. The magic wave formed by the collapse of the magic waterfall was actually so strong. When the magic waterfall collapsed, the violent water magic elements carried by the magic waterfall not only destroyed the empty ship, but also rolled up a huge wave that was dozens of meters high. It looked as if someone had cast a super water magic at the bottom of the water. The originally blue sea became as dark as mud. The passengers who fell into the sea were swallowed by the raging waves before they could flip around a few times. The magic waterfall collapsed, and Yun Sheng was pulled down by the water power. She fell off the back of the golden qilin and into the churning sea. The large amount of water magic elements made Yun Sheng feel like she was drowning. Yun Sheng also tried to use wind magic like the levitation spell to get out of the sea, but the violent waves made her try several times without success. In such a harsh environment, even magic was powerless. Yun Sheng could only hold her breath and float in the waves, maintaining a trace of consciousness. Grabbing the black box in her hand, she kicked her feet and tried to float to the surface. But just as Yun Sheng came out of the water and tried to breathe, a tentacle wrapped around her ankle and pulled her into the water. Yun Sheng choked on a mouthful of water and sank with the black box. At this time, later Qin's spaceship had already found Dugu Xiu. Your Majesty, quickly board the ship. These waves are very normal. I'm afraid that Anemone Abyssalis is angry. Madame Qi Bai knew how terrifying water-type magical beasts were in the ocean. Even if Dugu Xiu was strong, his strength would be greatly reduced when fighting in the ocean. They had to leave this area as soon as possible. Dugu Xiu climbed onto the boat, but at that moment, he heard a flapping sound behind him. He turned around and saw Yun Sheng sinking to the bottom of the sea. When Dugu Xiu saw this, his expression changed, and he wanted to go into the water to save her. When Madame Qi Bai saw this, she pulled Dugu Xiu back. Are you crazy? You can't go into the sea. I only said half of what I wanted to say. The Abyss Tentacle Monster is something from the Netherworld Ghost Realm. Its sudden appearance here must be related to the Netherworld Ghost King. You're willing to give up your life for that woman? The Netherworld Ghost King was a name that was related to death. He was a godlike existence, a true immortal demon god. No matter how strong Dugu Xiu was, he was still weak in front of the Netherworld Ghost King. If these Anemone Abyssalis were really related to the Netherworld Ghost King, then if Dugu Xiu angered the Netherworld Ghost King, even the patriarch of the Obsidian clan might not be able to save him. Dugu Xiu's face was calm. At this time, the sound of something heavy falling into the water could be heard. Dugu Xiu looked over and saw the golden qilin that carried Yun Sheng jump into the water. Even a magical beast knew how to protect its master. How could he lose to a magical beast? Dugu Xiu's heart skipped a beat as he swept Madame Qi Bai's hand away. After saying this, he turned around and jumped into the sea. Dugu Xiu. Madame Qi Bai's eyes were filled with despair as she watched Dugu Xiu disappear into the raging waves. Her voice trembled as she said, "For that woman, you're willing to give up your life." Compared to the raging waves on the surface of the sea, the bottom of the sea was much more stable. The moment Yin Sheng was pulled into the sea by the tentacle, her heart calmed down when she came into contact with the bone-chilling sea water. Under the water, Yin Sheng's most proficient fire magic was almost ineffective. The power of the elven hellfire was also greatly reduced. Only dark magic and water magic could be used to the best effect. Her eyes were sharp and her hands were fast. She barely had time to chant. A ripple appeared under the water as a large amount of water magic elements quickly condensed into ice swords. The ice swords pierced into the tentacle's body, and the tentacle immediately froze into a rigid ice cube. Yunsheng struck the tentacle with her magic scepter, and it split into pieces. Yunsheng took the opportunity to kick her feet and paddled a few meters in the water. However, not far away, a large number of tentacles surged over. Their target was the black box in Yunsheng's hand. Yunsheng lowered her head to look at the black box in her hand and discovered that there was actually a hole in the black box. It turned out that during the intense struggle and entry into the water just now, the magic restriction outside the box was broken. The moment the box entered the water, a hole opened in the box. In the dim water, the hole in the black box actually emitted a dim light that resembled Will-o'-the-Wisp. At this moment, the summoning demon's hand and the immortal Holy Grail in Yunsheng's storage ring all started to ring. This is... Yunsheng's eyelids twitched. Could it be that this black box hid one of the 8 divine artifacts? Just as Yunsheng was deep in thought, those lingering tentacles had already closed in. The oxygen in Yunsheng's lungs was also getting less and less. A golden light rushed over, and Yunsheng saw the gold coin swimming toward her. But at this moment, a hand suddenly appeared behind Yunsheng. That hand pulled Yunsheng forcefully, and she fell into a hard arm. Yunsheng turned around and saw that Dugu Xiu's annoying face was only inches away from her. She wanted to shake off Dugu Xiu's hand, but his grip was very tight. Yunsheng already didn't have much strength after the fight underwater. Dugu Xiu pulled Yunsheng and swam towards the surface. Seeing that Yunsheng was being taken away by Dugu Xiu, the golden qilin paddled with all its might, wanting to chase after them. But at this moment, those tentacles had already wrapped around the golden qilin's limbs. A look of annoyance flashed across its golden eyes. A light flashed on the golden qilin's right arm, and the bottom of the water lit up. Chapter 992. Seeing Dollar being swallowed by the countless tentacles, Yunsheng was very anxious. After coming out of the water and taking a breath of fresh air, she shook off Dugu Xiu and wanted to go back to the bottom of the sea to save Dollar. Do you want to die? It's just a magical beast. Dugu Xiu was very angry. This stupid woman, he had spent so much effort to save her, but she still wanted to die. Surrounded by so many abyss tentacles, that qilin was dead. Yunsheng had many magical beasts under her command, so what if one died? In the sea, a large number of tentacle anemones had appeared. They attacked everyone they saw, so they had to leave this sea area as soon as possible. Dollar is not an ordinary magical beast. Yunsheng's face was red with anger. Dugu Xiu was startled. Yunsheng was also shocked when she heard this. It turned out that unknowingly, in her heart, Dollar was not just a magical beast. Just now, it must have been very sad to throw Dollar away. Yunsheng's face was pale, her black hair stuck to her face, and her body trembled slightly. Tisk, so annoying. You stay up here, I'll go down. Dugu Xiu refused to let Yunsheng go down. He gritted his teeth and prepared to go back again to save that magical beast. He really owed this woman in his previous life. Not only did he have to care about her life and death, but he also had to care about her magical beast. He was about to become a nanny. Under the sea, there was a terrible fluctuation, and countless waves gushed out from the bottom of the sea. It felt as if there was a big explosion at the bottom of the sea. Blood instantly dyed the sea area red, and tentacles floated out of the water. The cut of each tentacle was neat and uniform, as if it was split open by a sharp blade. Dugu Xiu's face suddenly changed. Could it be that the magical beast was actually, just as Dugu Xiu was pondering, a golden light rushed out of the sea like an arrow. A golden qilin, rippling with water, swept past Dugu Xiu with a whoosh. Dugu Xiu was hit by the airflow and was knocked back dozens of meters. It was not easy for him to stabilize his body. On the other hand, Yunsheng had already landed steadily on the back of the qilin. Dollar, are you okay? The ecstasy of regaining what she had lost made Yun Sheng lose control. She could not help but hug Dollar and kiss him on the neck. Feeling the softness on his neck, the golden qilin under him stiffened, and a suspicious blush appeared on his face. Duguxiu's expression turned even worse. Was he seeing things? That magical beast was actually so intimate with Yun Sheng. Looking at Yun Sheng's expression just now, he had never seen such a happy expression on Yun Sheng's face. A large number of anemone abyssalis tentacles were floating around him. Duguxiu casually picked one up and tugged at it. He discovered that the tenacity of the tentacle sunflower was very high. Ordinary blades and battle chi were unable to cut it. How did this magical beast kill so many tentacle helianthus in an instant? This qilin wasn't simple. Because of Dollar's fight, the tentacle sunflowers had obviously been severely damaged. The sea surface, which was originally surging with angry waves, had quieted down a lot. 2 people and 1 beast, one sinking and one floating on the sea surface. At this time, there was a shout in the sky. The empty ship of Later Qin slowly descended. After discovering Duguxiu's figure, Madame Qi Bai hurriedly ordered people to save him. Although he was extremely unwilling to save Yun Sheng, as soon as Duguxiu boarded the ship, he ordered Madame Qi Bai to save Yun Sheng and the golden qilin as well. The seawater is wet and cold. Wipe him first. Madame Qi Bai glared at Yun Sheng and diligently took a blanket to wipe Duguxiu. Although Yun Sheng had disguised herself, Madame Qi Bai knew that this prince regent of Zhou State was Yun Sheng in disguise just by looking at Duguxiu's disregard for her. After Duguxiu took the blanket, he handed it to Yun Sheng without saying a word. Yun Sheng hesitated for a moment, but still took the blanket. Duguxiu was delighted. However, the golden qilin's expression wasn't very good. It stared at Duguxiu with hostility, unwilling to let him even half a step closer to Yun Sheng. After Yun Sheng took the blanket, she didn't immediately wipe the water off her body. Instead, she gently wiped Dollar. As she wiped, she said, "Dollar, those tentacles didn't hurt you, did they?" Duguxiu's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. He glanced at his left arm. Just now, he had accidentally been stung by the tentacle sunflowers. The dissatisfaction in the golden qilin's eyes was immediately replaced by arrogance. It raised its head with a look of enjoyment. In its throat, it growled a few times. Its golden eyes seemed to glance at Duguxiu a few times. Its small eyes seemed to be saying, "What, do you have this kind of treatment?" Duguxiu was already full of anger after being hit by the golden qilin earlier. Now that he was provoked like this, he was so angry that he couldn't speak. He turned around and went into the cabin to change his clothes. If it weren't for Yun Sheng's presence, he would definitely fight the golden qilin to the death. Moreover, with a man's intuition, it wasn't difficult for Duguxiu to discover that this golden qilin was very hostile towards him. That gaze and that arrogant look just now made Duguxiu really suspect that it was just a magical beast. "Yun Sheng, you shameless person. You're already married, but you still go around seducing other people's men," Madame Qi Bai said viciously while Duguxiu wasn't around. "Madame Qi Bai, please understand that it was your man who came to provoke me. If you're worried, you can find a chain to tie him up. I guarantee that he won't be able to escape for the rest of his life." Yun Sheng sneered. You actually dare to insult his majesty. Do you believe that I won't tell everyone that you're impersonating the regent of Great Zhou? Ji Rumo of Penglai of Gojoseon invited the emperors and prince regent of several large countries to Penglai to discuss important matters. Yun Sheng must have come impersonating the prince regent for another purpose. "Qi Bai, I advise you to be smart. Our identities are very awkward. Your and Duguxiu's identities aren't much better," Yun Sheng retorted sarcastically. What she meant was that Madame Qi Bai and Duguxiu both had Bahuang bloodlines. When Madame Qi Bai heard this, she was speechless. At this time, cries for help could be heard from the sea. On the sea, a passenger who had survived the disaster was lying on the wreckage of the Flying Dragon ship, calling for help from the empty ship. Yin Sheng recognized that the person was the magical beast merchant Chang Wei, who had been thrown out by Jin Bai in Class A earlier. I know that person. Save him, Yin Sheng said in an indifferent tone. Do you think I'll save him just because you say so? This is a later Qin empty ship. I won't save him, Madam Qi Bai wanted to throw Yin Sheng off the ship. Duguxiu walked out of the ship's cabin. He had already changed into dry clothes. After hearing Yun Sheng and Madame Qi Bai's words, Duguxiu only said one sentence in a deep voice, save him. While Duguxiu and the others were saving the magical beast merchant Chang Wei, on the sea, several summoners were searching for Yun Sheng and the whereabouts of the black box. Chapter 993. The magical beast merchant Chang Wei trembled as he was rescued onto the empty ship. He had been a magical beast merchant for so long, but this was the first time he had encountered such a critical situation. As soon as he got on the ship, he heard that it was Yun Sheng who had ordered to save him. He was very touched. Gongzi! No, I should call you Prince Regent. Thank you for saving me. He grabbed Yun Sheng's hand and wiped away his snot and tears. However, two cold gazes made him feel a chill down his spine. Chang Wei stole a glance. One of the gazes belonged to the black-faced, later Qin Emperor Duguxiu, and the other one, needless to say, was the golden Qilin who almost made him lose half his life earlier. What was wrong with this person and beast? It was as if he owed them millions of dollars. Chang Wei could only let go of Yun Sheng's hand in embarrassment. Yun Sheng was not a saint. If she wanted to save Chang Wei, it would not be because the two of them had met once. She saved Chang Wei because she wanted to ask about this sea area, as well as about the flying dragon ship and the black box on her. Chang Wei was the only native of Penglai on the empty ship of later Qin. Chang Wei, let me ask you, is the magical plant in the sea a native plant of Penglai? Yun Sheng had fought with the tentacle sunflower earlier. That kind of tentacle sunflower seemed to be very immune to magic. It was also very difficult for ordinary weapons to hurt them. It was certain that this was a kind of underwater plant with an extremely amazing reproductive ability. No. I, Chang Wei, can guarantee that this kind of monster has never appeared here before. This sea area was very calm before today. It's too tragic. It's really too tragic. Chang Wei was still a little stuttering at this moment. The sky had gradually darkened. Under the afterglow of the setting sun, the sea had temporarily returned to its calm state. The broken wreckage of the flying dragon ship could still be seen. A large number of corpses of passengers were scattered everywhere like colorful garbage. Other than Chang Wei, no other survivors were found on the empty ship. How much do you know about the flying dragon ship? The black box was still lying quietly in Yun Sheng's arms. Within the beast's speech ring, the resonance of the divine weapons had already stopped. Yun Sheng was sure that the item in the black box must be one of the 8 barren divine artifacts. However, she didn't have the chance to check which one it was. Long Xiang is an empty ship under the Penglai Pavilion, the largest dock in Penglai. Since Penglai of Gojoseon took over Penglai, it has been developing very well. The empty ship picks up passengers and various goods. In the past 10 years, there has not been a single shipwreck. Chang Wei really understands the situation in Penglai. It was also because it belonged to the Penglai Pavilion that it could be said to be an empty ship operated by the royal family. That was why magical beast merchants like Chang Wei could ride it without worry. If it belonged to the Penglai of Gojoseon, then did the black box belong to Penglai of Gojoseon or the Zhao state? Yin Sheng was deep in thought. Your Majesty, there are a few summoners in front of us. They said that His Highness the Regent of Great Zhou stole something from them. The soldier in charge of the lookout reported to Duguxiu. Several summoners appeared in midair. Together with the summoners, there were a few magical beasts between level 7 and 8. A black mass of them entered the later Qin's empty ship. Judging from the clothes of the 2 people in the lead, they were of high ranks in the Zhao state. One of them was the 7th summoner who had fought with Yun Sheng earlier. The other one was the Zhao state's summoner who Yun Sheng had never seen before. The 7th summoner was still injured. This time, He disguised himself as the captain of the flying dragon ship and was responsible for escorting the black box with a group of summoners from the Zeo state. Although they did not know what was in the black box, the Zeo state had sent all the elites to escort the black box. The seventh summoner was safe and sound all the way. He thought that the mission would be completed soon after entering the Penglai Sea. Who would have thought that he would be ambushed by Anemone Abyssalis on the way? Then, he encountered the sinister regent of Great Zhou. His magical beast with sacred patterns was killed, and he almost died in the Penglai Sea. Fortunately, the second summoner, who was waiting at the port of Penglai, saw that the flying dragon ship had not arrived after an hour had passed. He went out to sea to look for help and save the seventh summoner, who was dying. In order to cover up his mistake, the seventh summoner insisted that the regent of Great Zhou stabbed him in the back and stole the black box. The second summoner had received an order from the Emperor Zhao in red that the black box was related to the fate of the boundless land. He must bring it back. Therefore, he and the seventh summoner searched for the regent of Great Zhou and the black box along the coast. Who would have thought that they would discover the whereabouts of the regent of Great Zhou on a later Qin ship? Yi Baiming, hand over the black box. The seventh summoner was in a sorry state. On the other hand, Yinsheng was not even scratched, let alone injured. He was furious just looking at her. How dare you? The Zhao state is too presumptuous. Who allowed you to behave so atrociously on my ship? Since you're on my ship, you're one of my people. If you want to take her away, you have to ask me first. Duguxiu's expression turned cold. The people of the Zhao state were indeed arrogant. They completely ignored his existence. As Duguxiu shouted, he released his battle chi without holding back. In the past 3 years, Duguxiu's cultivation had improved greatly. His martial emperor aura was like a black cloud pressing down on the seventh summoner. The seventh summoner was seriously injured. He immediately lost his balance and staggered, almost falling from the sky. Luckily, the second summoner was fast enough to grab the seventh summoner's robe. However, he had already lost all face. Later Qin, when Duguxiu was still the crown prince, he was already famous for his cold-blooded cruelty. After he became the later Qin emperor, although he had restrained himself a little in the past few years, his aura was like that of a tiger and wolf. Before he even made a move, it was already enough to make people tremble in fear. However, what surprised the second summoner was that the regent of Great Zhou, who was rumored to be like fire and water, and the later Qin emperor, Duguxiu, were actually on the same boat. Furthermore, from Duguxiu's words, it was clear that he was on the same boat as the regent of Great Zhou. Could it be that the rumors outside were all false? Didn't they say that because of a woman, the later Qin emperor and the regent of Great Zhou? The second summoner raised his eyebrows slightly. He remembered that the woman who caused the regent of Great Zhou and the later Qin emperor to go to war with each other was now in the Zhao state's water prison. These two people appeared together in Penglai. Could it be that they knew something? The second summoner had some misgivings in his heart. He wondered if he should tell the Emperor Zhao about this earlier. Otherwise, if the news reached Penglai of Gojoseon's ears, it would be bad. In fact, whether it was the woman in the water prison or the black box on the flying dragon, Penglai of Gojoseon didn't know about it beforehand. In the past few years, the relationship between Penglai of Gojoseon and Emperor Zhao had become increasingly tense. The second summoner didn't know how to explain to Penglai of Gojoseon after the flying dragon crashed. The second summoner didn't dare to go head-to-head with Duguxiu. On the later Qin's empty ship, the two men who stood as straight as javelins were young emperors who could change the weather of the boundless continent with just a stomp of their feet. However, the black box was also a very important item. He had to get it back. Chapter 994. In order not to alarm the Penglai of Gojoseon, the second summoner didn't bring too many people with him before he set off. The seventh summoner's demonic beast had been killed, so he was half crippled. The second summoner obviously had no chance of winning against two martial emperors. The second summoner was much smarter than the seventh summoner. He knew that he couldn't fight them head-on, so he immediately put on a smile. "Your Majesty Dugu," That's not what I meant. It's just that the Prince Regent took something that Emperor Zhao spent a lot of effort to find. If he loses it, Emperor Zhao won't let it go. Why don't the Prince Regent hand it over, and the seventh summoner, and I will pretend that nothing happened. The second summoner tried to persuade the seventh summoner. How can that be? That guy killed my sacred beast. The seventh summoner wanted the second summoner to stand up for him, but he didn't expect the second summoner to just say that nothing happened. Shut up. Don't you think that this matter isn't big enough? The second summoner said in an exasperated tone. Emperor Zhao's things? Duguxiu glanced at Yun Sheng suspiciously. So what if it's Emperor Zhao? I'm the great Zhou state. The country is rich and the people are strong. I'm the regent of Great Zhou. Do I look like the kind of person who would steal other people's things? Yun Sheng's expression was calm, and she didn't blush at all. Her tone and gaze made it seem like the matter of Xiao Hei's box had nothing to do with her. Madame Qi Bai mocked in her heart. Keep pretending. You're the one who took it. Duguxiu coughed in a low voice. Based on his understanding of Yun Sheng was really the kind of person who would steal other people's things. Duguxiu had fought with her several times. He didn't know how strong Yun Sheng really was, but there was no doubt that she was cunning. Just based on her tone, Duguxiu could conclude that Yun Sheng took something from the Zhao state. Forget it. What's done is done. The Emperor Zhao in red, so what? If she wanted it, then so be it. Duguxiu retracted his gaze with an indifferent look on his face. Did the two of you hear that clearly? When the second and seventh judges heard this, they became even angrier. Prince Regent, you are clearly robbing us. There's no need to make it sound so unpleasant. Forget it, it's just a black box. This prince doesn't want it. After Yun Sheng finished speaking, he really took out a small black box from his bosom and waved it in his hand. Duguxiu and Madame Qi Bai looked over. The black box looked very ordinary. The second judge was about to take it, but was stopped by the seventh judge. Second judge, it's better to be careful. That person is very cunning. I was plotted against by him before. The seventh judge was also frightened. He looked around and confirmed that there were no traces of anemone abyssilis nearby. However, he still didn't give up. Earlier, he clearly saw that after the region of Great Zhou threw the box out, the anemone abyssilis couldn't move at all. It was as if someone had tampered with the black box. It's up to you whether you want it or not. Since you don't dare to take it, this prince also doesn't want to get into trouble. I'll just throw this box away. Yun Sheng sneered. He waved his hand and really threw the black box overboard. The small black box turned into a black dot and was thrown into the vast sea. If such a small thing really fell into the sea, it would be very difficult to salvage it. The second judge didn't dare to hesitate. In a flash, he was about to snatch the black box. Duguxiu was astonished. With Yun Sheng's personality, how could she hand over what she had obtained so easily? Just as the second judge's fingers were about to touch the black box, a smile appeared on his face. However, at this moment, the black box suddenly exploded. Then, something rolled out from inside. Everyone present was a top-notch expert on the mainland. With just a glance, everyone clearly saw what was inside. The item that the Zhao state and the region of Great Zhou were fighting over was a bronze key. Yun Sheng, the golden Qilin, and Duguxiu all recognized the key at the same time. The Netherworld Ghost Key. The three of them had caught a glimpse of one of the 8 Wastelands divine artifacts in the ruins of Taiyuan 500 years ago. It was the Netherworld Ghost Key that could summon the Netherworld Ghost King. There was another saying about the Netherworld Ghost Key. Every time the owner of the Netherworld Ghost Key used it to summon the Netherworld Ghost King, the Netherworld Ghost Key would disappear. No one would know where the Netherworld Ghost Key went. Until the next time the Netherworld Ghost Key appeared in front of the world, it would wait for someone to summon the Netherworld Ghost King again. Just like its name, the Netherworld Ghost Key came and went without a trace. Who would have thought that what the Emperor Zhao in red was searching for was the Netherworld Ghost Key? When the Netherworld Ghost Key fell, it emitted a strange light. The second judge finally managed to snatch the Netherworld Ghost Key. After obtaining the key, the second judge's expression relaxed. He even forgot that he was about to fall into the water. Yun Sheng's pupils constricted. She said softly, "It's coming." Gah! Bubbles kept popping up on the originally calm sea surface. The piercing scream caused the second judge's mind to go blank. He lost control of his body and rushed towards the sea surface. Something emerged from the bottom of the sea. When the second judge realized that something was wrong, he struggled and waved his magic scepter. He used a wind elemental spell to stabilize his body. When he saw the thing that came out of the water, the second judge was shocked. He wanted to run, but it was too late. Like a volcano erupting, water arrows shot out from the bottom of the sea and stirred up waves that were dozens of meters high. A mountain-like shadow emerged from the depths of the sea. It was a terrifying magic plant that looked like an octopus but was not an octopus. It was full of tentacles. Anemone abyssalis. There were thousands of tentacles on its body. The most shocking thing was that when the anemone abyssalis made an unpleasant sound like a duck, small tentacle flowers would appear on the surface of the water. The surface of the sea was soon filled with tentacle flowers of different sizes. There were so many of them that it made one's scalp tingle with fear. It was the king anemone tentacle that had the ability to summon. Gah! There was another ear-piercing chirp. Like soldiers who had received a general's command, the tentacles of the abyss, tentacle sunflowers of various sizes, shot out at the same time, shooting towards the second lord as if throwing countless javelins. The second judge wanted to resist, but he found that he couldn't move at all. Puff, puff, puff. Dozens of holes appeared on the second judge's body. His eyes were wide open until he died, and he still held the Netherworld Ghost Key tightly in his hand. The second judge was sucked dry and turned into a bag of skin. The Netherworld Ghost Key fell. Anemone abyssalis loosened its tentacles and was about to grab the key. It was obvious that the sea anemone had appeared for the Netherworld Ghost Key. But at this moment, a pink shadow pounced in front of Anemone abyssalis and grabbed the key tightly. Then it flapped its wings and rushed into the sky like a whirlwind. Everyone looked and saw that it was a pink, fluffball-like magic beast that had snatched the Netherworld Ghost Key. Chapter 995. The explosion of the black box, King Anemone abyssalis that rushed out of the water, and the sudden appearance of baby sheep. Everything was too much for him to handle. Why did that venomous-tongued beast suddenly appear here? Only then did Dugu Xiu remember that baby sheep, who had always been inseparable from Yun Sheng, had disappeared for a long time. After connecting the dots, Dugu Xiu suddenly understood. No wonder Yun Sheng was so calm from the beginning. That woman had actually planned this all along. She had probably even calculated that the second summoner would be killed by Anemone abyssalis. Dugu Xiu could not help but smile bitterly in his heart. Even he had unknowingly fallen into her trap. Just now, he had almost snatched the Netherworld Ghost Key. Dugu Xiu was absent-minded for a moment. He asked himself in his heart, what kind of person is Yun Sheng? A moment ago, she was still willing to disregard her own safety for a magical beast. But in the next moment, she was so astute that it made people tremble in fear. Without shedding a drop of blood, she borrowed a knife to kill the second summoner. Even if the Zhao state investigated afterwards, she could still evade all responsibility. This woman, or Huiyu, who was the real her, even if he spent his whole life, he would not be able to figure it out. However, it was also because she was so unpredictable that he was attracted to her. Dugu Xiu's sudden realization fell into the eyes of the golden Qilin Yi Baiming. The other party only sneered in his heart. Dugu Xiu, you will never be able to understand this little wild cat. Yi Baiming also did not understand some of Yun Sheng's actions. Yun Sheng was different from any other woman he knew, but Yi Baiming did not mind. He liked this kind of Yun Sheng. If she was willing to do it, he would let her do it. He would help her do it. Who asked her to be the woman he liked? Baby sheep, the key is in my hand. My dear master, please praise and caress me. Baby sheep was very proud of getting the Netherworld Ghost Key. Earlier, when the flying dragon ship was swept into the sea, Baby sheep was looking for its master in the sea. It was careless and lost its way again. Coincidentally, when it got lost this time, it accidentally discovered the multi-legged monster lurking at the bottom of the sea. At this time, Yunsheng also sensed Popping Sheep. Popping Sheep told Yunsheng about the tentacle monster. Yunsheng had long been puzzled. The magic waterfall that trapped the flying dragon ship was definitely not a magic restriction that could be formed by ordinary tentacle sunflowers. Therefore, she suspected that there was an even more powerful tentacle helianthus hidden in the Penglai Sea. That tentacle helianthus might even be a king-level existence. And its target was the black box that the Zao state had worked so hard to transport back to the Zao state. Yunsheng believed that although the seventh summoner had been tricked by her once, he would never give up. He would definitely bring his accomplices to ambush her again, under the premise that she could not directly expose her summoner's strength. Yunsheng wanted to defeat the enemy and successfully snatch the Netherworld Ghost Key. King Anemone Abyssilis was a good thing that she could directly use. Baby Sheep also happened to find the location of King Anemone Abyssilis. Yunsheng found that the location of King Anemone was within the active area of Later Qin's spaceship. Earlier, because some of the King Anemone tentacles were injured by the Golden Kylan, the King Anemone tentacle temporarily lay dormant at the bottom of the sea to recuperate. Yunsheng used the time when she rescued Changwei to let the Later Qin's spaceship approach the location of King Anemone. At this time, the people of the Zao state rushed over. Everything that happened next was very smooth. The moment Baby Sheep snatched the Netherworld Ghost Key, King Anemone Abyssilis flew into a rage. Its tentacles, which were amazingly flexible, suddenly rushed toward Baby Sheep like an arrow, trying to snatch back the Netherworld Ghost Key. Hundreds of meters in the air, King Anemone Abyssilis' tentacles stretched out like lightning. But just as the tentacles were about to reach Baby Sheep, King Anemone Tentacle seemed to have suddenly discovered something. Ga. There was another ear-piercing sound. King Anemone Tentacle's tentacles retracted as if they were burned by fire. It seemed that it was very afraid of Baby Sheep and did not dare to snatch the Netherworld Ghost Key again. Hey, many-legged monster, look carefully. Isn't it from the underworld? Why did it come to the human world? It must be the world deity of the underworld. That dead fish-eyed man neglected his duty. Baby Sheep widened its black eyes and stared at Abyss King Anemone. It was still afraid that it could not see clearly. Without any fear, it flew to King Anemone's side and looked left and right. The more it looked at Baby Sheep, the more it realized that something was wrong. This King Anemone was not from the Boundless Land. The reaction of the Sea Anemone King, which was equivalent to a king-level magical beast, was also very subtle. Its tentacles shrunk tightly, and it even let out a frightened sound. King Anemone already possessed a human-like consciousness. It originally lived in the underworld, but due to a freak combination of factors, it fell to the Boundless Land in the human world. It had been hiding in the depths of the Penglai Sea for more than 5,000 years. For many years, it had been trying to find a way to return to the underworld. Finally, it felt a mysterious force that could lead to the underworld. It was the Netherworld Ghost Key that the seventh summoner and the others were in charge of escorting on the flying dragon. The Sea Anemone King's intuition as a demonic plant king knew that the key was most likely an opportunity for it to return to the underworld. That was why it had chased after the flying dragon ship with all its might in order to retrieve the key. But just as it was about to get the Netherworld Ghost Key, this unknown magical beast appeared. The Sea Anemone King didn't care about a magic beast that had neither magic nor battle skills. Just as he was about to insta-kill it, the Sea Anemone King suddenly discovered that this pink magic beast, there was an extremely familiar yet terrifying aura coming from this magical beast. In King Anemone's consciousness, a handsome man dressed in blood-red clothes appeared. His black hair fluttered in the wind, his eyes were red, his hands were as white as snow, and he had a pair of black wings on his back. He was holding a blood scythe that could split the moon in half. The man's smile was filled with bloodthirsty, killing intent. King Anemone shuddered. In the underworld, the Netherworld Ghost King was undoubtedly a powerful expert. Thousands of magical beasts would avoid him. But other than the Netherworld Ghost King, There was another person who was not inferior to the Netherworld Ghost King in terms of strength. That was the underworld deity. This pink magical beast's aura was actually similar to the underworld deities. Even if it was given another 10,000 years of cultivation, it would not dare to provoke the companions of the underworld deity. Seeing that King Anemone did not dare to attack Bobo, Yinsheng felt that it was strange. But in the current situation, she did not have the time to care so much. Food should be eaten one bite at a time. Killing people should be done one by one. With the Netherworld Ghost Key in hand, it was time to deal with those people from the Zao state. Yinsheng's lips curled up. Her dark red lips were like cherry blossoms, suddenly revealing a heart-palpitating smile. This article was updated 4 times a day. Basically, it will be finished before 9 p.m. If there were any more updates, it would be notified separately. It was nearing the end of the year, so students and workers should not stay up late to wait for it. Recently, I've been thinking about whether to couple Bobo and the sheep. Chapter 996. When the Netherworld Ghost Key was stolen, King Anemone didn't kill Mr. Bobo, who had stolen the key. Instead, he cowered and didn't dare to attack. This scene terrified the group of summoners. They looked at baby sheep as though they had seen a ghost. Needless to say, they went forward to snatch the Netherworld Ghost Key from baby sheep's hands. When the second summoner was killed, the 7th summoner and the other Zao state summoners were also shocked. The 7th summoner pointed at Yunsheng. Aren't you afraid of the Zao state's revenge? Revenge? You'll have to be alive to talk about it. Yunsheng's eyes turned cold. The 2 summoners' lives were just an appetizer. A pair of wind wings appeared behind her, and she raised her magic scepter. In the clear sky, a bolt of lightning struck, and several black, dark, heavenly thorns pierced through the sky like tree roots, shooting toward the 7th Lord. The 7th summoner was disheartened. He thought that he wouldn't be able to escape death today, but it was too late. In the void, a figure appeared out of thin air and suddenly appeared beside the 7th summoner. The man wearing a jade mask moved his lips like a ghost. On the surface of the sea, water vapor condensed, and a water shield met the dark heavenly thorns. It was a simple water shield, but it collided with the dark heavenly thorns. The dark magic power and the gentle water power canceled each other out. The water shield shattered, and the dark heavenly thorns disappeared. In the mainland's magic world, it had always been believed that the higher the level of magic, the more powerful the magic would be. For example, when a low-level magic met a high-level magic, it would lose without a doubt. Before this, Yinsheng had also thought so. But today, after meeting the jade-faced man, she realized that her understanding of magic was completely wrong. Mages who had comprehended magic to the highest level had already reached an astonishing level of simplification. Even the most common water shield was enough to contend against high-level or even super magic. The dark heavenly thorn was a new dark magic that Yunsheng had comprehended for 3 years after absorbing a part of Yi Baiming's magic soul. Its power was extraordinary. That jade-faced man actually used the simplest water shield to exhaust the power of the dark heavenly thorn. One could imagine his cultivation. Yinsheng felt a chill in her heart. The 7th summoner managed to keep his life. When he saw who it was, he cried out, "My king, His Majesty Penglai of Gojoseon." Based on the 7th Lord's tone, he seemed to be more frightened than happy to see Penglai of Gojoseon. His body began to tremble uncontrollably, and even his teeth began to chatter. Even when facing Anemone Abyssalis, the 7th summoner had not been so afraid. This tall and slender man with a jade-like face was the second wall of the boundless continent, the Prince Regent of Penglai, Ji Rumo. Penglai of Gojoseon, Ji Rumo. 7th summoner, so you still have me as your king in your heart. Ji Rumo's voice sounded very gentle, like a gentle sea breeze on a summer's day. However, every word he said was chilling to the 7th summoner's ears. My king thing, the thing that belonged to the Zao state, was snatched away by that magical beast. The 7th summoner could not even complete his sentence. One could imagine how much he feared this Penglai of Gojoseon. This also made Yun Sheng and the others even more curious about Peng Lai of Gojoseon. Peng Lai of Gojoseon was wearing a mask, so one could not see his exact appearance. However, if the rumors were correct, he should have been a handsome man. His mask outlined a perfect side profile. Unfortunately, under the jade mask, there was already an incomplete face. But even so, Ji Rumo's voice alone was enough to mesmerize thousands of young girls on the continent. Ji Rumo had finally arrived. Duguxiu was not surprised by Ji Rumo's sudden appearance. On the contrary, Duguxiu was a little surprised that Ji Rumo had only arrived now. He had sent a messenger falcon to the Peng Lai Pavilion. Logically speaking, he should have arrived yesterday. Your Majesty Dugu, Your Highness Prince Regent, greetings. Rumo is very sorry to have frightened the two of you in the Peng Lai Sea. Ji Rumo nodded at the people on the empty ship. When his gaze landed on Yun Sheng, he paused imperceptibly. Yun Sheng could not help but feel nervous. She secretly thought that Yi Biming had never met Ji Rumo. It was impossible for him to recognize her. Ji Rumo quickly withdrew his gaze. Yun Sheng and Duguxiu did not notice that when Ji Rumo withdrew his gaze, his jade-like slender fingers hidden under his royal robe could not help but clench tightly into a ball. It's her. Layers of ripples appeared in his heart. Thanks to the jade mask on his face, Ji Rumo's loss of self-control was well concealed. Little guy, you took something you shouldn't have. As soon as Ji Rumo appeared, Bobo Sheep secretly prepared to sneak to his master's side. However, Bobo Sheep's plot was seen through by Ji Rumo at a glance. He raised his hand, and a ball of purple lightning appeared in his hand, making crackling sounds. The ball of lightning contained a large amount of white light. Ji Rumo raised his hand, and a ball of purple and white magic light wrapped around Bobo Sheep, forming a small cage. Bobo Sheep was stunned. He felt a numbing current rush into his body. He could not flap his wings, and even flying was difficult. What the hell was this? It actually couldn't escape. Ji Rumo closed his fingers, and the ball of purple and white magic light returned to his hand. He held the ball of light in his hand, as if he was playing with a handball. Bobo, my dear master, quickly save Bobo Sheep. Bobo Sheep was furious. This tattered masked man had actually imprisoned him. He wanted to escape and kill him, but he did not have the strength. Yun Sheng was also shocked. Bobo Sheep, who was almost immune to all magic barriers, could not do anything to that ball of purple and white magic light. It seemed to be a kind of profound magic similar to Yun Sheng's profound magic, the lightning vortex. Peng Lai of Gojoseon, Ji Rumo, was indeed not simple. Peng Lai of Gojoseon, that is my magical beast. Can you return it to me? Yun Sheng did not want to have a direct confrontation with Peng Lai of Gojoseon. It was a pity that the Netherworld Ghost Key had flown away. This man was too strange, and his strength was unpredictable. Before she could figure out his strength, Yun Sheng did not want to fight with him. Moreover, this time, she came to find the whereabouts of her mother and father. It seemed that Ji Rumo and the Zao state were not jackals of the same tribe. Perhaps she would need his help. Prince Regent's magical beast is very special. I can return it to you, but I can't give the thing in its hand to the Prince Regent. Please forgive me. Rumo will host a banquet tomorrow to welcome the Prince Regent and your magical beast. Ji Rumo laughed loudly. After taking the Netherworld Ghost Key, he threw Bobo Sheep to Yun Sheng. He then threw it, but the strength he used was quite ingenious. That ball of purple and white magic light collapsed in front of Yun Sheng, and Bobo Sheep fell into Yun Sheng's arms, begging for a monthly ticket. Chapter 997. Bobo, Tu Yin masked man. Bobo Yang looked like he was about to cry. Now you know that there's always someone better than you out there. Yun Sheng scratched Bobo Yang's soft fur. Bobo Yang was used to being arrogant since he was young. Letting him experience a setback would be good for his growth. As for the Netherworld Ghost Key, she could only think of another way. While Yun Sheng was comforting Bobo Yang, she was secretly surprised. Peng Lai of Gojoseon didn't seem to have any hostility towards her. From his tone, he seemed to be very friendly. Yun Sheng also felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity towards him. Could it be that they had met somewhere before? But Yun Sheng had never been to Penglai, let alone have any dealings with the royal family of Penglai. So where did this sense of familiarity come from? When the seventh lord saw that the netherworld ghost key was back, he was secretly delighted. He said recklessly, "Penglai of Gojoseon, the Emperor Zhao asked me to escort this key. You see, seventh lord, you and the second lord secretly used the flying dragon to transport the netherworld ghost key behind my back. Do you know that the evil aura on the netherworld ghost key will attract a large number of dark monsters? More than 1,000 lives on the flying dragon. I will settle accounts with you when I get back." Ji Rumo's voice was cold. When the seventh lord heard this, he couldn't help but feel shocked. Penglai of Gojoseon had made it clear that he was going to settle accounts with you. In other words, not only was he going to hold the seventh lord responsible, but he was also going to settle accounts with Emperor Zhao. Penglai of Gojoseon was Penglai of Gojoseon. Even in front of Emperor Zhao, he was not willing to back down. The seventh lord's face became even uglier. After saying that, a sharp light flashed in Ji-Ru's amber eyes under her black, jade-like face. "Your Majesty Rumo, please move your airship. Rumo wants to clean up these uninvited guests in the sea." Ji Rumo decided the fate of those abyss tentacle monsters as he spoke. Dugushio wanted to see how Penglai of Gojoseon would deal with the abyss tentacle monster. As soon as the netherworld ghost key left Popping Sheep's hand, the King Anemone Tentacle in the sea had already sensed it. King Anemone Tentacle wasn't that polite to the masked man in the sky. The tentacles were like countless lightning bolts, and the King Anemone Tentacle's tentacles pierced towards Penglai of Gojoseon's chest. As soon as the tentacles arrived, Penglai of Gojoseon's shadow flashed, and he was already thousands of meters high in the sky. He raised his hand, and small speedboats appeared on the surface of the sea. There were hundreds of speedboats, and they surrounded King Anemone Abyssalis in all directions. Wind magicians speed up, earth magicians attack. Hundreds of magic scepters flashing with yellow and green light were aimed at the tentacle sunflower on the sea. In an instant, countless rays of magic light surged toward the abyssal tentacle sunflower king like a rising tide. King Anemone Tentacle commanded the Anemone Abyssalis to fight with the ships. Its tentacles were like countless whips, wildly waving and attacking Penglai of Gojoseon. Penglai of Gojoseon's body movements could no longer be seen with the naked eye. In the sky, countless tentacles turned into black shadows and chased after the unusually agile purple shadow. Suddenly, the purple figure dove down at a low altitude, and purple and white lightning arcs appeared in his hands again. However, this time, the arcs of light didn't condense into a magic light ball, but formed two purple dimensional daggers with half-moon edges. The purple dimensional daggers were like fiery wheels, cutting through the air with irresistible force. King Anemone's tentacles were cut into several pieces as soon as they touched the dimensional daggers. As if it knew the power of the purple daggers, King Anemone Abyssalis became timid and swam to the bottom of the sea. The purple shadow dived rapidly again, and in an instant rushed to the bottom of the sea, and a huge concave surface about 10 meters wide appeared on the surface of the sea. The purple dimensional daggers slashed through, and a purple moon seemed to rise on the sea. Puff! The power of the dimensional daggers was amazing. They formed a stunning bright arc and cut through King Anemone's head. The purple shadow kicked King Anemone's head, which had been cut in half, out of the sea. The broken tentacles rolled down like rain, and the fishy plant juice washed over the entire sea. Penglai of Gojoseon withdrew the purple dimensional daggers in his hand, and a cold look flashed across his eyes. Behind him, the sun rose slowly from the east, and the purple shadow floated on the sea, making people feel a chill in their hearts. King Anemone was killed, and the other abyssal anemones became insignificant. Penglai's magic speedboats quickly cleared the rest of the abyssal anemones, and the sea surface gradually returned to its blue color under the effect of the wind magic. After everything was cleaned up, the speedboats withdrew in an orderly manner. Peng Lai of Gojoseon had no weak soldiers under his command. In the sky, on Later Qin's empty airship, everyone was dead silent. Later Qin's emperor, Dugu Xiu, did not look very good. All along, he had thought that Yi Baiming of Zhou State was his opponent, but today he saw that Peng Lai of Gojoseon and Jirumo were not easy to deal with. King Anemone, who even Dugu Xiu found difficult to deal with, was quickly eliminated under the command of Peng Lai of Gojoseon in half an hour. If that was the case, why didn't he appear earlier? He had sacrificed the lives of more than 1,000 people on the Flying Dragon. The impact that Peng Lai of Gojoseon brought to Yun Sheng and the Golden Shilin Yi Baiming was no less than that of Dugu Xiu. Peng Lai of Gojoseon was able to become one of the Wuji 5 Jade Annulus. He was older than Dugu Xiu, Yi Baiming, and the others. Of course, his strength would not be too weak. However, no one expected him to be so strong that he could perfectly kill a king-level dark magical beast in 15 minutes. It was not only Peng Lai of Gojoseon's unpredictable magic that made people apprehensive. There was also something else that made people apprehensive. Since Peng Lai of Gojoseon was born in Peng Lai, it was very likely that he had summoned beasts. If he was also a summoner, perhaps even Yun Sheng would not be his opponent. Just now, the purple weapon that Peng Lai of Gojoseon used was very special. Yun Sheng actually did not know what kind of weapon it was. It seemed to be a product that fused many kinds of magic elements. Peng Lai actually had such a master of magic hidden. Peng Lai of Gojoseon was hiding too many secrets. Yun Sheng had no choice but to treat him with caution. Peng Lai of Gojoseon landed on the empty ship of the later Qin dynasty. His voice was still as warm as before, as if the massacre just now did not affect him at all. Your Majesty Dugu, Prince Regent of Gojoseon, welcome to Peng Lai. The three of them looked at each other and smiled. However, the meaning in their eyes was completely different. Peng Lai of Gojoseon's gaze seemed to sweep past Yun Sheng. There was a strange fluctuation in his eyes. Dugu Xiu was on his guard. He was even more cautious about this trip to Peng Lai. Yun Sheng, on the other hand, felt that the future was unpredictable. She did not know if her search for her parents in Peng Lai would go smoothly. The empty ship moved forward slowly. In addition to the Golden Shilin Yi Baiming, who was also on the empty ship, this ship actually gathered the top experts of the younger generation of the mainland. Chapter 998. The empty boat moved forward slowly. Around sunset, an island finally appeared on the vast sea level. Peng Lai was the only sea country among the 5 major countries on the mainland. It was also the most famous island group on the mainland. After Yun Sheng traveled to the mainland for more than 10 years, she had been to the Zhou State, later Qin, Tang Yuan, and later Qin. She had never been to Peng Lai. Firstly, it was because Peng Lai was the territory of the Zhou State. Yun Sheng's identity was special. Before she knew the whereabouts of her mother, she tried to avoid dealing with the Zhou State. Secondly, Peng Lai was located in the open sea. Even if it was an empty boat, it would take many days to sail. This was the first time that Yun Sheng set foot in Peng Lai. Before coming to Peng Lai, among the 4 major countries, Yun Sheng thought that immortal residence was the most beautiful. The elves were originally a race of compromise. The various construction techniques of elves and mixed-blood elves were also unparalleled in the world. However, when she saw the Peng Lai Islands scattered like a string of pearls on the blue sea, Yun Sheng changed her opinion. The sea breeze carried a moist, salty taste. Peng Lai Island sparkled under the sunlight. There were clouds and mist around it. All kinds of flying magical beasts of different shapes and breeds soared high in the sky. Peng Lai was like a beautiful woman with a veil draped over her shoulders, slowly revealing her true appearance in front of everyone. Peng Lai Island is in front of us. Peng Lai has a history of more than 1,000 years. The main island is divided into 2, namely Fire Island and Iceland. The Penglai Pavilion is located in Iceland, and the Zao State is located in Fire Island. In addition to the two main islands, there are more than 60 small islands. Penglai is simple, and the scenery is very good. At this time, there are still some days before the Dutian summit. If the Prince Regent doesn't mind, Rumo can take the Prince Regent to see the scenery of Penglai. The man's warm voice sounded in Yunsheng's ears. Ji Rumo of Penglai of Gojoseon stood beside Yunsheng. Under the jade face, the pair of amber eyes were like a jar of wine, mellow and rich, which made Yunsheng dazed. When she remembered that this man had killed a magical plant like Anemone abyssalis by himself, Yunsheng stopped looking down on him. Something was wrong. This man seemed to have some unusual feelings for Yunsheng. At the side, the golden Qilin Yi Baiming's golden eyes flickered. It cast a sidelong glance at the baby sheep lying comfortably on Yunsheng's shoulder. As soon as the latter met the golden Qilin's gaze, the two beasts communicated with each other through their eyes. A king-level magical beast soul stone to deal with that masked boy. Bobo deal. Bobo, I don't want the masked man. Bobo immediately became energetic. Anyway, it was stingy and hated Penglai of Gojoseon. Bobo rolled proudly on Yunsheng's shoulder. Penglai of Gojoseon's face stiffened. Yunsheng smiled faintly and said with a bit of politeness, Penglai of Gojoseon is very busy every day. How would this king dare to disturb you? Just now, this king has promised your country's magical beast merchant, Chongwei, that he will be the host. As for accommodation, this king will temporarily stay in the Great Zhou Embassy in Penglai. Among the 5 major countries on the mainland, except for the Immortal Abode, which did not receive envoys from other countries, the other 4 countries all had embassies in other countries as long as they were not at war. Later Qin's Duguxiu and the others also lived in Later Qin's embassy. Yunsheng rejected Penglai of Gojoseon. The latter's eyes darkened, and he pretended to hide the disappointment in his eyes. Lord Penglai of Gojoseon, Prince Regent saved this humble one's life. This humble one will definitely entertain him well. Chongwei nodded and bowed at the side. Chongwei spent a lot of effort to persuade the regent of Great Zhou. This way, he could understand the Prince Regent's 2 magical beasts at a close distance. Penglai of Gojoseon nodded and said no more. The boat gradually descended. When they were about to disembark, Yunsheng suddenly said, Penglai of Gojoseon, have we met before? Penglai of Gojoseon paused. Just as he was about to answer, he saw a magical beast galloping towards them. On top of that magical beast sat a summoner. Your Majesty Penglai of Gojoseon, Emperor Zao of Gojoseon invites you. The Emperor Zao in red was looking for Penglai of Gojoseon at this time. His goal was obviously the Netherworld Ghost Key. However, he did not know if Penglai of Gojoseon would hand over the key so easily. Penglai of Gojoseon snorted coldly. The 7th Lord beside him could not help but shrink his neck. Needless to say, it was also the 7th Lord's secret. Penglai of Gojoseon hurriedly bowed and bade farewell. After he left, Duguxiu came forward. He wanted to say something, but he realized that Yunsheng had already been pulled away by the enthusiastic Chongwei. The 2 main islands of Penglai Island belonged to the Penglai Pavilion and the Zao State respectively. Ordinary people on the islands could not enter without a token. The empty boat that Yunsheng and Duguxiu took earlier landed at one of the more than 60 islands of Penglai Island. There were many water, land, and air routes between the more than 60 islands. They could communicate with each other. Chongwei was the royal magical beast merchant of Penglai country. He had a lot of property. His mansion on Penglai Island was located on the 3rd largest island of Penglai Island. This island was also the first island with the most embassies, restaurants, and shops of other countries. Chongwei first sent Yunsheng to the embassy of Zhou State. That night, he also hosted a banquet to entertain Yunsheng and the others. At night, Yunsheng returned to the Great Zhou Embassy. After entering the room, the light of the illuminating magic array dimmed. A man in black waited outside the room for a moment. He did not leave until he heard a steady breathing sound from the room. As soon as the man in black left, Yun Sheng turned over and sat up. Sure enough, as she expected, the people in the Great Zhou Embassy of Penglai Island had been bribed by the people of Penglai Island. But she did not know who these people listened to. Was it the seemingly friendly Penglai of Gojoseon or the Emperor Zhao in red, who had never shown up? However, one thing was for sure. Yun Sheng had used a scheme to kill the second main summoner and cause the seventh main summoner to lose his sacred rune beast. Just based on these few points, the people of the Summon Palace would definitely not let this matter rest. If the people of Zhao State wanted to come, then let them come. Yun Sheng sneered a few times. She teleported and left the embassy. Because the appearance of the gold coin was too conspicuous at night, Yun Sheng simply left it in the embassy. She flew all the way to the estuary with baby sheep. In the night, the Penglai Sea, which was rippling in the daytime, looked like a dark curtain. Penglai Island was different from other big countries. At night, there were no patrolling guards. Because there were many dangerous demon beasts between the sea and the land at night, ordinary civilians consciously did not go out at night. Baby sheep, are you sure you can still find the whereabouts of King Anemone? The purpose of Yun Sheng going out at night was to find the dark magic plant, the Abyss King Anemone, who was killed by Penglai of Gojoseon during the day. Dear Master, you must believe in baby sheep. I am sure that the monster with many legs is not dead yet, Baby Sheep said calmly. Chapter 999. Yun Sheng had her reasons for entering the Penglai Sea in the middle of the night. She was looking for the King Anemone tentacle of the dark demonic plant that had been killed by Penglai of Gojoseon. On the Boundless Continent, the attributes of the magical beasts were different. Some magical beasts were good at attacking, while others were good at defending. However, in terms of vitality and the harsh living conditions, the magical beasts and demonic plants of the dark element were undoubtedly the strongest. The saying, "Centipede dies but never falls down," was apt to be used on the dark creatures. Ordinary magical beasts would definitely die after receiving a fatal blow from Penglai of Gojoseon. However, the Abyss King Anemone was different. Since it was a dark element creature, its vitality was astonishing. In addition, it was a demonic plant. As long as it still had one tentacle, it was equivalent to having one more chance of survival for King Anemone. As long as it could absorb a portion of energy, it would be able to survive and come back to life again. Penglai of Gojoseon did not expect this. Although he had already ordered people to salvage King Anemone's tentacle, there was still an extremely important life tentacle somewhere on the surface of the Penglai Sea. The fact that the life tentacle could revive King Anemone was just told to Yun Sheng by Baby Sheep. Baby Sheep had a poor sense of direction, but its ability to locate magical beasts was top-notch. It had seen Anemone Abyssalis once and could accurately pinpoint its location. They soon discovered the tentacle of the sea anemone that had escaped death. It was just a tentacle that was as thick as an arm. In the sea, it could be swallowed by the seawater at any time. However, Yun Sheng could still smell a trace of vitality from the tentacle. After sensing the unfamiliar aura of baby sheep and humans, King Anemone's tentacle trembled and tried to hide. Bo, tell it to submit to me, and I will have a way to save it. Yun Sheng had the exquisite beast pagoda that all magical beasts yearn for. Coupled with the Water Spirit Queen, it would not be difficult for her to save King Anemone Abyssalis. After a while, it said, "Dear Master, it doesn't want to." The Abyssal King Anemone was no ordinary magical plant. It had lived in the deep sea for more than 5,000 years. It was an existence that was even older than the 5 major countries of the continent. It was only because it was separated from the optimal growth area of the netherworld abyss that its growth was greatly affected. Even so, it was still the undisputed king of the boundless continent's devil plants. This unknown summoner in front of it, with his lowly strength, actually wanted it to submit. Even if it was now so weak that it only had a tentacle of life left in its consciousness, it was still a powerful king-level magical plant. A lowly summoner was not worthy of being its master. If the sea anemone queen was human, she would definitely show a look of disdain. Even if she could not communicate with the sea anemone queen, Yunsheng could feel the sea anemone queen's contempt. There was no point in saying more. If it was not going to submit, then it was time to use force. A powerful magical wave enveloped King Anemone. King Anemone saw a withered hand reaching out from the man's sleeve. That hand did not match the man's youthful appearance. It was decayed like a mummy's hand, but contained an infinite amount of terrifying magical power. As the black-clothed man chanted, balls of flames that resembled the sunset began to burn fiercely. Unlike ordinary flames, the flames released by the man were not afraid of the seawater at all. King Anemone suddenly felt the water in its body evaporate. It wriggled its tentacles and felt the fire burning its vitality bit by bit. King Anemone had never encountered such a terrifying fire. It seemed to be able to burn King Anemone's consciousness. If this continued, it would die. It would die in this sea. It was unwilling. It was very unwilling. It had not returned to its homeland. After 5,000 years of waiting, it finally had the chance to return home. Ba ba ba, multi-legged monster, you are so stupid. Why do you have to fight to the death? Your dear master is very powerful. Don't you want to return to the underworld? As long as you submit to my master, he will definitely think of a way to get the netherworld ghost key. At that time, you and your sunflowers can return to the netherworld abyss. By the way, the netherworld abyss is a damned place where birds don't lay eggs. This world god doesn't like it. Baba Sheep chattered. Yunsheng used her elven hellfire to burn King Anemone. When she was in the Grand Emperor City, Yunsheng caught a glimpse of the Emperor Yin Yan. In the past 3 years, she repeatedly recalled the scene of the Emperor Yin Yan's appearance. It actually increased the purity of her elven hellfire by a level. The current hellfire of the elves could not only burn all kinds of ores in the world, but it was also the nemesis of all nemeses to dark creatures. Coupled with the summoning demonic hand, the hellfire of the elves could completely wipe out the consciousness of the sea anemone king. When King Anemone heard that Yunsheng had a way to let him return to the underworld, the last line of defense in his heart collapsed. He weakly expressed to Baba Sheep that he was willing to submit. In order to let King Anemone recover as soon as possible, Yunsheng placed him in the Ling Long Beast Pagoda. King Anemone's weak body quickly recovered under the effect of the spiritual energy in the Ling Long Beast Pagoda. The tentacles that were cut off grew back again. About 2 to 3 hours later, King Anemone's true form was revealed. The sea anemone king, which looked like an octopus and was covered in ugly tentacles, was actually a bright-colored, beautiful sea anemone that was only half the height of a person. Yunsheng was speechless at the disparity between the two of them. However, after experiencing the transformation of the puffed egg into a sheep, Yunsheng's ability to accept things had improved greatly. King Anemone also quickly gained the recognition of the other magical beasts in the Ling Long Beast Pagoda and became a member of Yunsheng's magical beast clan. Yunsheng successfully formed a contract with the Abyss King Anemone. At the same time, she also obtained all of King Anemone's memories, including a part of the memories regarding the Netherworld Ghost Key. After fusing with King Anemone's memories, Yunsheng found out that the Netherworld Ghost Key had another important function. Other than summoning the Netherworld Ghost King, the Netherworld Ghost Key could also form a spatial door to find the entrances to other continents or even realms. Finding entrances to other continents or realms. What's the difference between this and Bai Sheep's talent as a world god? Yunsheng originally thought that the Netherworld Ghost Key, as one of the 8 Barons' divine artifacts, would have some amazing uses. Baba, my dear master, there are still some differences. For example, even if this world god's power is restored, I can only move about in the human world. However, with the Netherworld Ghost Key, I can enter other realms and enjoy a one-time immunity. You have to know that every realm has a world god. Without the permission of the world god of this realm, I can't go to other realms without permission. Otherwise, I will be punished by my soul being unable to reincarnate. Bashib stuck out its tongue. Chapter 1000. There were laws in the world, and naturally, there were laws as well. There was a rule in the three realms. Since there was the existence of world gods, there would be so-called laws and corresponding punishments. The human realm, the underworld, and the deity realm all had their own world gods. Other than maintaining the stability of their own realm, the world gods also had to guard against intruders from other realms. However, even with such strict rules, there were still some loopholes, and that was that there would be some supreme experts in every realm. With the birth of these supreme experts, Path of the Gods, Netherworld Ghost Key, and other heaven-defying existences that broke the rules of the world gods were born. For example, Path of the Gods. Its birth meant the birth of a new god. As for the Netherworld Ghost Key, due to some unknown reason, the three world gods and the Netherworld Ghost King reached an agreement. Every person who had the Ghost Key could have one chance to travel to another realm without being punished. And compared to world gods who could only bring one person back when the Netherworld Ghost Key was used, as long as the corresponding magic array was drawn, one could bring many people or even an army to travel between continents or realms. When Yunsheng heard this, her heart skipped a beat. A name that she had forgotten for a long time suddenly entered her mind. That was the saintess of the celestial fox people, Husheng. 3 years ago, Husheng left without saying goodbye. After that, Yunsheng was depressed for a while because of Yi Baiming and missed the best opportunity to find Husheng. After Yunsheng recovered, she had been looking for Husheng's whereabouts, but there was no news about Husheng. Because of this, Yunsheng had always had a knot in her heart. Back then, she had promised Husheng to send her back to the 8 desolate continent, but she had no way to do so. Today, when she suddenly heard that the Netherworld Ghost Key could allow many people to travel between continents and realms, Yunsheng remembered the promise she made to Husheng back then. With Husheng's strength alone, it would be difficult for her to return to the 8 desolate continent. But she did not know magic, and she was also the celestial fox people. It was too dangerous for her to stay in the boundless continent. In the past few years, Yunsheng had never given up looking for Husheng's whereabouts. Yunsheng planned to wait until the Dutian meeting was over before she personally went to look for Husheng. If there was a chance, she would try to snatch back the Netherworld Ghost Key and send Husheng back. The reason why the Abyss tentacle monster wanted the Netherworld Ghost Key was to return to the underworld. As for the Emperor Zhao in Red Skull, it was obviously related to the Bahuang continent. This Dutian meeting had not even started, but the Netherworld Ghost Key, one of the 8 Desolate's divine instruments, had already appeared. The meeting was definitely not going to be simple. Counting the heart's bewildered lantern that she found by chance in the Taiyuan ruins more than 500 years ago, and the magical bracelet that went missing in the Taiyuan ruins, Yunsheng had seen a total of 8 Desolate's divine instruments. The summoning hand, the immortal Holy Grail, the magical bracelet, and the heart's bewildered lantern. Until now, only the Destiny Mirror and Dongwang Qing had yet to appear. Among them, the appearance of the Netherworld Ghost Key was directly related to the Netherworld Ghost King and the heart's bewildered lantern. The heart's bewildered lantern played a key role in curing Hu Jiuxing's memory loss. Linking the two together, the importance of the Netherworld Ghost Key was self-evident. This made Yunsheng even more frustrated. She had not successfully obtained the Netherworld Ghost Key today. She had hastily rejected Peng Lai of Gojoseon's invitation. She had been a little reckless. Earlier, the Emperor Zhao in red had stopped Peng Lai of Gojoseon at the harbor. It must have been because of the Netherworld Ghost Key. However, she did not know if the extremely skilled Peng Lai of Gojoseon would give the Netherworld Ghost Key to the Emperor Zhao in red. With such doubts, Yunsheng returned to the Zhou State Embassy. She decided to look for Peng Lai of Gojoseon again in the next few days to see if she could get the Netherworld Ghost Key back. However, Yunsheng was not the only one who was concerned about the fate of the Netherworld Ghost Key. on one of the main islands of Penglai, Iceberg Island, in the meeting room of the Zhao State Embassy. The two authoritative figures of Penglai, the Emperor Zhao in red and Penglai of Gojoseon, stood facing each other. Both of them were equally tall and imposing. The two figures, one red and one purple, were like two stone statues contending with each other. Neither of them had any intention of backing down. In the meeting room, the seventh caller, who was standing, did not even dare to make sound. It had been several hours since Penglai of Gojoseon had been summoned. Neither of the two authoritative figures of Penglai had said a word. Without receiving an order, the seventh caller did not dare to step down. He was also complaining in his heart. Very few people in the outside world knew that although Penglai of Gojoseon and the Emperor Zhao in red were the two authoritative figures of Penglai, their relationship was like that of the two main islands of Penglai. They were polar opposites of ice and fire. Their relationship had always been very stiff. I'm doing this for Penglai. The remnants of the Bahuang tribe have always been restless. If we have the Netherworld Ghost Key, we can invade their beast god altar and uproot them. The Emperor Zhao in red's search for the Netherworld Ghost Key this time was very secretive. Who knew that they would suddenly encounter some abyss tentacle monster? Thousands of people on the flying dragon ship had died. This matter had also made Penglai of Gojoseon very angry. This was the most troublesome thing. Even if it had fallen into the hands of any other power in the mainland, the Emperor Zhao in red was confident that he could get it back. However, if the Netherworld Ghost Key fell into the hands of Jirumo, it would be very difficult to get it back. That was why the Emperor Zhao in red had hurriedly called Jirumo over. However, looking at Jirumo's reaction, it was obvious that he did not buy it. Put away your high-sounding excuses. You can find a reason for everything that the Zhao state does. What do you plan to do with the woman in the water prison? Penglai of Gojoseon asked. He no longer had the warmth of a day. At this moment, he gave off the feeling of a knife in the middle of winter. His voice was bone-chilling and made people's souls tremble. When he first saw the face of the woman in the water prison, his breath almost froze. Fortunately, he immediately realized that the woman was not Yun Sheng. Otherwise, the biting cold on Jirumo's body became even more obvious. He knew about the celestial fox people. The Emperor Zhao in red's face became even more ugly. This matter could not be hidden from him after all. He knew that the reason why Jirumo had changed so much in the past few years was related to the woman in the water prison. That woman is the celestial fox people. I will use her as a blood sacrifice. At this time's Dutian meeting, I will announce this news. In order to avoid any more trouble, the Emperor Zhao in red decided to kill Yun Sheng in the water prison as soon as possible. So you thought that in my name, you would summon the people of the four countries? Penglai of Gojoseon Jirumo was even more angry. Not only did he know about the Netherworld Ghost Key, but he also knew about the gathering of the four countries in Penglai after the event. Although it was just a glance, Jirumo could conclude that the woman in the water prison must have something to do with Yun Sheng. If Yun Sheng knew about this, she would definitely not stand by and do nothing. How dare you talk to me in this tone? Don't forget that without me, there would be no you. The Emperor Zhao in red was very agitated. Chapter 1001. Without me, there would be no you. Every time Penglai of Gojoseon and the Emperor Zhao in red got into a conflict, the Emperor Zhao in red would say this, and Penglai of Gojoseon would always compromise. The seventh caller didn't even dare to say a word. Only the most important people in the Zhao state knew about the background of Penglai of Gojoseon and Jirumo. The Emperor Zhao of the Zhao state couldn't marry. The Emperor Zhao in red was no exception. Jirumo was adopted by the Emperor Zhao in red. 20 years ago, the Emperor Zhao in red, who had just become the Emperor Zhao in red, came back from a trip. It was early in the morning that the Emperor Zhao in red heard the sound of a child crying as he passed by the Penglai Sea. At that time, the Emperor Zhao had just turned 30 years old. His temperament wasn't as unpredictable as it was in recent years. Out of curiosity, he stopped and saw a naked baby boy on the beach. Unlike other babies that had been abandoned, the baby boy didn't have any swaddling clothes or anything that could prove his identity. Looking at his appearance, it was obvious that he had just been born. For some reason, his parents had abandoned him on the beach. However, his body was very clean. Even his umbilical cord was very clean. The lower half of the baby boy's body was submerged in the sea. Because he had choked on some seawater, he was on the verge of death. His face was purple. After the baby boy was picked up, he used his small fist to grab onto the Emperor Zao in red sleeves. He wouldn't let go no matter what. The Emperor Zao in red, who had always been cold, suddenly had the idea to bring the baby boy back to the Zao state. After the Emperor Zao in red rescued the baby, he didn't pay too much attention to it. After all, the Zao state recruited a large number of orphans and abandoned babies every year. He just casually handed the baby boy over to the Zao state's caretaker. Soon, the Emperor Zao forgot about the baby. It wasn't until 5 years later that the Emperor Zao in red met him again. The Zao state was famous for its summoners. In order to attract new blood, every 5 years, the Emperor Zao in red would test and select a batch of outstanding summoners from the orphans and abandoned babies. According to the Zao state's rules, the Emperor Zao in red would personally reward the talented summoners who were promoted and specially trained. He would also select a few of them and accept them as his direct disciples. Among the selected Zao state's new talents, the Emperor Zao in red immediately saw a 5 or 6-year-old boy. The reason why the boy attracted the Emperor Zao in red's attention was because he was young. The second reason was that the boy was very beautiful. The third reason was that the boy was alone. The Emperor Zao in red was an elegant and handsome man. However, the boy who was selected stunned him. His skin was white and tender like tofu, as if it had never been exposed to sunlight. He had long and dense eyelashes and a pair of amber eyes. Even when facing the most powerful person in the Zao state, the Emperor Zao in red, the boy's expression was calm and he didn't show any fear. However, other than his age and appearance, what made the Emperor Zao in red surprised was that the boy didn't have any summoned beasts beside him. The other new talents beside the boy all had summoned beasts lying beside them. They were all summoners. Since he wasn't a summoner, why was he able to stand among these new talents? Moreover, from the looks of the other new talents who were older than the boy, they seemed to be in awe of him. "What's your name?" The Emperor Zao in red was a little curious. "Rumo." The boy opened his mouth. His gentle voice revealed a calmness that didn't match his age. He wasn't like the others who were timid. He calmly faced the Emperor Zao in red. "You're not a summoner?" The Emperor Zao in red's question was directed at the 10th main summoner who selected these new talents. What he meant was, since he wasn't a summoner, why was he selected? Since when did the new talents of the Zao state start to judge people by their appearance? In Penglai, in the Zao state, summoners had always been respected since ancient times. If he couldn't even summon a summoned beast, then he was a piece of trash. In the Zao state, he could only be sent to the outer islands to do things. The Emperor Zao in red. Did you forget that this child was the abandoned baby you picked up back then? Although he can't summon a summoned beast, he is very talented. He can learn all magic with just one look. That's why I made an exception and selected him. The 10th main summoner was afraid that the Emperor Zao in red would misunderstand, so he quickly explained. Rumo was picked up by the Emperor Zao in red, but he didn't receive any special treatment. He grew up with other orphans and babies. Babies in the Zao state were different from babies in other places. They weren't breastfed, but were fed by magical beasts. Babies who were breastfed by magical beasts were born with the scent of magical beasts. It was easier for them to get close to magical beasts, and it was easier for them to become summoners in the future. After being fed for a few years, Rumo's appearance slowly grew. He also lost the ugly bruises he had when he was first picked up. Because of his outstanding appearance and cold personality, Rumo was bullied by other children in the Zao state before he was 3 years old. Once, a few older boys led him to the magic beast forest behind the Zao state that specialized in taming magical beasts. In the magic beast forest, there were some freshly caught magical beasts that were still wild. The boys originally wanted to scare Rumo, but they didn't expect that they would attract a group of level 4 tiger lion beasts. Among the boys, the oldest was only 10 years old, and he had just learned intermediate magic. Chapter 1002. Hiss! The red-robed summoner king sucked in a sharp breath. The Emperor Zao, in red, who wouldn't change his expression even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him, suddenly changed his expression. He looked at Rumo with an unfathomable gaze. Earlier, when the 10th summoner praised Rumo's talent, the Emperor Zao, in red, didn't believe it. Even if a 5-year-old child's talent was really amazing, it was impossible for a 5-year-old child to understand the fusion of 2 magical elements at once. However, he had no choice but to submit to Rumo. Although the purple and white magical light did not condense into the Thunder God's break, this child's future was limitless to be able to form such a large-scale magical light with just a glance. The Emperor Zao in red's next move shocked everyone present in the Zao state. He picked up the boy and laughed heartily. From now on, you will follow I's surname. You will be called Rumo. Although the Emperor Zao in red had other adopted sons and daughters before he gave the surname Rumo, Rumo was the only one who was given the surname Rumo. His actions undoubtedly confirmed Rumo's position in Panlai, second only to one person and above tens of thousands. At that time, the Emperor Zao in red was also worried about the issue of the Panlai royal family's heir. Ever since the Taiyuan Crown Prince's incident, Panlai had implemented the separation of religion and politics. The Zao state had always wanted to secretly control the Panlai royal family, but they couldn't be too blatant. Coincidentally, at that time, Panlai Gojoseon's only son had unfortunately died. In the Panlai royal family, there were no more outstanding bloodlines to inherit the throne. The Emperor Zao, in red, secretly changed the identity of the boy and announced to the public that the boy was Panlai of Gojoseon's bloodline. When he was born, he was blessed by an auspicious beast and naturally became the heir to the throne of Panlai of Gojoseon. That boy became today's Panlai of Gojoseon, Rumo. Rumo was very talented. His learning ability was amazing. Except for the magical beast that he couldn't summon, he knew almost all magic. The 7th summoner had never seen anyone who could learn magic as fast as Panlai of Gojoseon. For example, the move that he used to kill King Anemone on the sea was the Emperor Zao in red's famous Thunder God's break. Only a few people who were close to the Emperor Zao in red knew that today's Emperor Zao also somewhat avoided Rumo. Although Rumo was personally promoted by the Emperor Zao, the two were not close. Maybe it was because Rumo lived in the Panlai Pavilion on the side of Iceland since he was a child. When he was still a child, his temperament was frighteningly cold. Emperor Zao would expand the power of the Zao state. In recent years, he had recruited soldiers and bought horses and intervened in the affairs of the mainland many times. Especially in recent years, because of political differences, Rumo and Emperor Zao had several conflicts. Perhaps even the Emperor Zao, in red himself, did not expect that one of his unintentional actions in the past would lead to the terrible situation of Panlai today. Originally, he thought that this time, when the Emperor Zao in red brought up the past, Panlai of Gojoseon would compromise like the previous few times. However, this time, Panlai of Gojoseon did not give in. He was reprimanded, but he was still unwilling to hand over the Netherworld Ghost Key. The disaster between the human race and the Bakra orcs almost destroyed the Boundless Land. I will not let the Boundless Land fall into the abyss of suffering again. Panlai of Gojoseon rejected flatly. Rumo, do you think that I can't do anything to you? The Emperor Zao in red's body flashed with a terrifying murderous intent. The purple and white magic power burned fiercely like flames. No one knew what Rumo's expression was like under his jade face. However, a purple and white magic power also filled the air around him. In terms of scale, the the two magic powers were actually on par with each other. The two magic powers collided together, and the ground cracked rapidly. The walls shook as if they would collapse at any time. The seventh summoner was the most miserable one. He was sandwiched between the two malefic stars and could not escape. At this moment, he was forced to kneel on the ground. He only felt that it was difficult to breathe. His body was also being hit by the two magic powers. It was as if he was being pressed between two walls. Emperor Zao, Peng Lai of Gojoseon, spare me. The Emperor Zao in red did not expect Jirumo's strength to improve so rapidly in the past few years. If he were to fight force with force, unless he summoned his beast directly, otherwise this kid was still useful for now. He still needed to be present at the Duqing conference. This time, he would let him go. He did not believe that he would not be able to get the Netherworld Ghost Key when the time came. Good. You're all grown up now, aren't you? You dare to challenge I? Scram back to your Penglai pavilion immediately. The Emperor Zao in red retracted his magic power. Peng Lai of Gojoseon parted with him on bad terms. He waved his sleeves and left the Zao state. The Emperor Zao in red glared at the seventh summoner. All of them were useless. In the Netherworld Ghost Key incident, he had lost his second summoner. Earlier in the Taiyuan ruins, he had lost his third summoner. The Zao state's 13 summoners had lost 2 of them in just a few days. How could the Emperor Zao in red not feel depressed? The Emperor Zao in red had found out about the whereabouts of the Netherworld Ghost Key by chance. He had thought that his plan was flawless. Who would have thought that he would lose both his money and his life in the end? Emperor Zao, you can't blame me for this incident. If you want to blame someone, blame the regent of Great Zhou. That despicable person had schemed against us so many times along the way. He was the one who caused the death of the second summoner. Seeing that the Emperor Zao was about to blame him, the seventh summoner hurriedly poured all the dirty water on the regent of Great Zhou. The seventh summoner recounted everything that had happened in the Penglai Sea, Anemone Abyssalis, and a magical beast beside the regent of Great Zhou. You said that the regent of Great Zhou has a magical beast that can pass through the magic waterfall? Could it be that the regent of Great Zhou is also a summoner? The Emperor Zao in red was a little surprised when he heard this. The magic waterfall was a type of super water magic that had very strong defensive abilities. Even if he encountered it, he would have to go through a lot of trouble to break it. A magical beast that could completely ignore the magic waterfall and pass through it freely was definitely not an ordinary magical beast. Moreover, as the Zao state summoner, the seventh summoner had seen at least tens of thousands of magical beasts. If he couldn't identify the species of magical beast at first glance, then it definitely wasn't an ordinary magical beast. Over the years, in addition to recruiting summoners, the Zao state had also used the magical beast merchants in Penglai Sea to buy all kinds of magical beasts on the Wuji continent. Their goal was to find new magical beasts. From what I can see, the region of Great Zhou is not a summoner. The summoning office of Zhou State has never recorded anything like this. That magical beast should just be a magical pet. Other than being able to pass through the magic barrier, it doesn't seem to have any other abilities. The seventh summoner remembered that the regent of Great Zhou didn't have any summoner's mark on him, nor did he wear any summoning token. Originally, the seventh summoner wanted to tell the Emperor Zao in red that besides the pink magical beast, there was also a golden magical beast beside the regent of Great Zhou. However, when he thought about how that magical beast seemed to be carrying the regent of Great Zhou, it probably wasn't a powerful magical beast. Chapter 1003. Magical Beasts, especially high-level, sage-level, or king-level magical beasts, were as proud as the masters and kings of the human race. They were extremely proud and arrogant, unless they were as powerful as Emperor Zao or Peng Lai of Gojoseon. The Prince Regent of Zhou State could not be compared to Emperor Zao. Thinking of this, the seventh summoner did not tell Peng Lai of Gojoseon about the existence of the Golden Kylan. It seems that I have to meet the regent of Great Zhou when I have the chance. The Emperor Zao, in red, muttered to himself. Emperor Zhao, don't worry. I have already sent people to hide in the embassies of Zhou State and later Qin. The two people in the embassies of Zhou State and later Qin will not be able to escape my eyes before the Duqin conference. The seventh summoner wanted to make up for his mistake, so he quickly asked for credit. His arrangement was indeed in line with the Emperor Zhao in Red's heart. In terms of strength, the seventh summoner and the second summoner were not the best in the Zhao state. They were even worse than the ninth summoner, Hu Jioshan. The reason the red-robed summoner king thought so highly of the two of them and had even handed over the matter of the Netherworld Ghost Key to them was because the two of them had won his favor in certain aspects. The second main summoner was an outstanding husbandry summoner. The most important magic beast forest in the Zhao state was under the care of the second summoner. For many years, the Zhao state was able to control the best magic beast forest on the mainland because of the second summoner. This time, the second summoner died. For the Zhao state, it was not so much a loss of a summoner, but a loss of a caretaker of the magic beast forest. As for the seventh summoner, although he didn't have the same level of skill as the second summoner, he was very good at flattery. Furthermore, he had a wide network of connections. The Netherworld Ghost Key had been missing for many years, and it was the seventh summoner who found some clues. Therefore, even though the seventh summoning mission had failed, the Emperor Zhao in red had no intention of severely punishing him. Although he hadn't obtained the Netherworld Ghost Key, it was in Jirumo's hands. With his temperament, he definitely wouldn't use the Netherworld Ghost Key. The evil aura on the Nether Ghost Key would indeed attract many dark magical beasts. Only a magician as powerful as Jirumo would be able to suppress the Nether Ghost Key. With that in mind, the Emperor Zhao in red decided not to pursue the matter of the Ghost Key. Emperor Zhao, there's one more thing. The second summoner is dead, and the third summoner is in trouble. Do you think we should promote some summoners? Especially the Magic Beast Forest, there hasn't been anyone in charge for a long time. Perhaps I can. Seeing that the Emperor Zhao in red wasn't pursuing the matter of the Netherworld Ghost Key, the seventh summoner took the opportunity to plead for leniency. The Redcoat summoner suddenly remembered that the Zhao state had also lost some people because of the Netherworld Ghost Key. These days, he had ordered the Summoning Institute to recruit new summoners as soon as possible, especially since the second summoner was in charge of the rearing of the Magic Beast Forest. He had to find someone to replace him as soon as possible. Keep your thoughts to yourself. Are you sure you can manage the Magic Beast Forest? The Emperor Zhao in red obviously knew what the seventh summoner was thinking. There were many wild magic beasts and wild herbs in the Magic Beast Forest. Whoever managed to manage the forest would have a lot of money to gain. Over the years, the second summoner had relied on the money in the Magic Beast Forest to secretly sell the herbs and young magic beasts to the magic beast merchants. He had made a lot of money. The seventh summoner had been drooling over the Magic Beast Forest for a long time. However, because of the second summoner, he had not been able to get his hands on it. Emperor Zhao, please don't worry. I have many summoners under me. I will definitely be able to manage the Magic Beast Forest well. The seventh summoner patted his chest and promised. The death of the second summoner was a great opportunity. He wanted to get his hands on this fat piece of meat before the other summoners could. Then I will leave the Magic Beast Forest to you for a month. If everything goes well in the Magic Beast Forest during this month, I will consider letting you take over the position of the second summoner. The Emperor Zhao in red was a little tired from the confrontation with Jirumo. He needed to meditate and rest for a while. Tomorrow, I will not let Emperor Zhao down. The seventh summoner heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that the Magic Beast Forest was under his control. He left happily. When he left, there were still two summoners waiting outside the Zhao state's main hall. It was not until the seventh summoner left that Yun Songhai, who had been pretending to be a summoner of the Zhao state, raised his head. The regent of Great Zhou, Yi Baiming, also came to Zhou state. 3 years ago, Yun Sheng and Yi Baiming got married. As a father, he could not attend their wedding. That night, Yin Songhai wanted to meet Yin Sheng. However, because of the Hu Sheng incident, he finally passed by Yin Sheng. In the past 3 years, Yin Songhai only knew that Yun Sheng had not walked around the mainland. If he Baiming also came to Penglai, he had to find a chance to meet him. Firstly, he could ask about his daughter's recent situation. Secondly, he might be able to ask him for help in rescuing the woman in the water prison. Yin Songhai made up his mind. He decided to inquire about the specific residence of the regent of Great Zhou in the next few days. However, when Yun Songhai was preparing to find the prince regent, Yun Sheng tried every possible means to sneak into the Zhou state. Because of this, the father and daughter had missed the best opportunity to meet each other. After contracting the tentacle sunflower from the Penglai Sea, Yun Sheng returned to the Great Zhou embassy. In the next 2 days, Chang Wei warmly entertained Yun Sheng and took her to visit several main islands of Penglai. However, Yun Sheng's mind was not on sightseeing. The reason why Yun Sheng came to Penglai was to find the whereabouts of her father and mother. Along the way, she also asked Chang Wei about the general situation of the Zhou state. She wanted to find a chance to sneak into the Zhou state. However, to Yun Sheng's surprise, Chang Wei told Yun Sheng that even he had only been to the Zhou state a few times. Although the Zhou state was in Penglai, not everyone could enter. The 2 largest islands of Penglai were the Ice Island and the Fire Island that Yun Sheng saw on the spaceship of the later Qin dynasty. In the east was the Fire Island. The Fire Island, as its name suggested, was originally a volcano. However, many years ago, it was sealed by the first Emperor Zhou and became an extinct volcano. Although the volcano was sealed, the accumulated geothermal energy made the temperature of the Fire Island dozens of degrees higher than the average place. This also made the Fire Island very suitable for all kinds of demon beasts to hatch and grow. The first Emperor Zhou chose the Fire Island as the location of the Zhou state. It gradually developed and became the headquarters of the current Zhou state. However, the Fire Island could only be entered by people who had the Zhou state summoner's token. The other main island of Penglai was the Ice Island in the west. The Ice Island was covered with ice all year round. The Penglai Pavilion, the residence of the Penglai of Gojoseon, was built on the Ice Island. Similarly, the Ice Island could not be entered at will. Only people who had the Penglai Pavilion's token could enter. Ordinary civilians could only live on the 60 or so islands outside of the 2 main islands. After listening to Chang Wei's words, Yun Sheng understood that if she wanted to enter the Zhou state and find her parents, she had to become a citizen of the Zhou state. Chapter 1004. Why? Does the Prince Regent want to enter the Fire Island? Chang Wei was a businessman and was very good at reading people's expressions. He saw that Yun Sheng was so concerned about the Fire Island, so it must be related to the Zhou state. I have an old friend in the Zhou state. I wanted to inquire about his whereabouts. Yun Sheng forced a smile. So you want to inquire about the whereabouts of an old friend? That's easy. Don't forget that I, Chang Wei, am a merchant of magical beasts. I know many people from the Penglai Monastery. If the Prince Regent wants to inquire about someone, just go to the Penglai Monastery and tell them my name. Chang Wei wanted to accompany Yun Sheng personally, but Yun Sheng politely declined. After getting the news from Chang Wei, Yun Sheng returned to the Great Zhou embassy first. When Yun Sheng returned to the Great Zhou embassy, she used a little trick to find the spy sent by the Zhou state. Yun Sheng's golden eyes flashed, and the spy became muddle-headed, not knowing where he was. The 7th summoner? Haha! Remember, in the next few days, tell the 7th summoner that I will be staying in the embassy. The spy nodded. After dealing with the spy, Yun Sheng began to plan how to sneak into the Zhou state. Before she set off, Yun Sheng had already used the disguise magic to change her appearance. On the streets of the 3rd largest island in Penglai, there was a thin girl with a yellow face. Beside the girl was a Xiaohei dog. The girl and the beast were Yun Sheng and Xiaohei in disguise. Before Yun Sheng went out, she was still hesitating. The reason was that Yun Sheng didn't know which magical beast to bring out. To enter the door of the Penglai Summoning Institute, one had to be at least a summoner. When Yun Sheng was in Zhou, she had participated in the local Summoning Institute's assessment. However, at that time, she was only the most ordinary beast summoner. It was time for him to retest his summoner skills. However, to test her summoner level, she had to choose a suitable magical beast. Yunsheng originally wanted to bring Jean Coin. However, after wandering around Penglai for a few days, Yunsheng gave up on this idea. The reason was that Jean Coin was too eye-catching. Jean Coin was the most handsome among the magical beasts. Its golden scales were enough to blind the eyes of the street. It had a vigorous posture, and there was not a trace of fat on its body. No wonder Chang Wei, who had seen countless beasts, wanted to use it to breed. At that time, Yunsheng thought that Chang Wei was making a fuss over nothing. But later, she discovered that Jean Coin's attractiveness was really not small. She and Jean Coin strolled around Penglai Street. There were already many summoners who asked Yunsheng about Jean Coin's rank. There were also some female beasts who chased after Jean Coin. These days, it seemed that a handsome magical beast was also very popular. Jean Coin was annoyed for a while because of this. In order to appease Jean Coin, Yunsheng could only let it stay in the Linglong Beast Tower for the time being. In the past few years, Yunsheng's magic cultivation and summoning level had increased greatly. The summoner level was no longer the same as it used to be. The most important thing was that the strength of her magical beasts had also increased. Each of them was not ordinary. When they went out, they would scare the people in the summoning office. After Yunsheng screened, she finally decided to take Xiaohe to the summoning office. Xiaohe was the first magical beast that Yunsheng had contracted besides Bobo sheep. Its cultivation level was now at the level of a holy beast. It would not be too high or too low. After choosing Xiaohe, Yunsheng went out and went to the summoning office in Penglai. Penglai was indeed a country of summoners. Along the way, many people were summoners. Penglai Monastery was easy to recognize. It was on the busiest street in Penglai. Unlike the desolate summoning office in Zhou State, the entrance of Penglai Monastery was crowded. There were people and magical beasts everywhere. Most of them were wearing summoner rings on their hands. Just as Yunsheng was about to enter the door, she suddenly saw a person. When Yunsheng saw the person, she was very alert and retreated to the side. The person who walked into the summoning office arrogantly was the seventh summoner of Zhou State, who had a grudge with Yunsheng. However, Yunsheng had used a disguise spell, so he did not notice that Yunsheng had walked right under his nose. Why did the seventh summoning office come? When Yunsheng saw this, she also walked into the summoning office. There were a lot of people in the Penglai summoning office. There were summoners waiting to be certified and magical beasts waiting to be rated. As the seventh summoner of Zhou State, the person in charge of the summoning office personally came out to greet the seventh summoner. No one paid attention to a foreign summoner like Yunsheng. Yunsheng pretended to walk to the two of them and pricked up her ears to listen to what they were saying. The person in charge of Penglai Monastery was a bald, middle-aged man. He nodded and bowed. Seventh summoner, may I know what brings you here today? The summoning office hasn't recruited any new summoners recently. The seventh summoner had a proud look on his face. The person in charge of Penglai Monastery hurriedly took out a roster and checked it. After checking, he told the seventh summoner that the Penglai Monastery had recruited a total of more than 20 new summoners in the past week. To be able to recruit more than 20 summoners in a week, this number wasn't small at all. Yunsheng couldn't help but think to herself. When she was in Zhou State, she heard the person in charge of the Yujing summoning office say that the Yujing summoning office didn't have a new summoner for a few years. Penglai was indeed the world of summoners. The so-called new summoners of the Penglai Monastery were obtained through two channels. One was through freelance summoners who became employees of the summoning office. Although freelance summoners were free, they were relatively less guaranteed. After joining the summoning office, they could receive a certain amount of salary every month and also have the opportunity to improve the abilities of their summoned beasts. Previously, Yunsheng had met Bing Ling at Wanlong Gambling House. At that time, she had relied on the second summoner through this method. The other channel was through new summoners who had awakened their innate summoning ability. This was similar to Yunsheng's childhood. Compared to the first channel, the Penglai Monastery generally preferred the second channel. This was because new summoners from the second channel were more likely to pledge their loyalty to the Zao state. Are there any summoners who are good at raising animals? The seventh summoner had been in a good mood these past few days because he had received a good assignment in the Magic Beast Forest. However, at this critical juncture, something had happened that made him very vexed. This matter was related to the development of the entire Magic Beast Forest. If he couldn't settle this matter, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to report to the Emperor Zao in Red in a month's time. Right now, he needed a summoner who could raise animals, so the seventh summoner came to the Zao state. The person in charge of the Penglai Monastery looked carefully and also flipped through the information from a few months ago. However, to the seventh summoner's disappointment, he couldn't find any summoners who could raise animals. Bastard, why isn't there even a summoner who can raise animals? The seventh summoner heard this and loudly reprimanded the person in charge of the summoning office. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.